Sorry that we're a few minutes late coming back. So, this is our first committee of the whole meeting. Welcome for those that are joining us. We will have a motion to return to public session.
Move.
Thank you. Call to order. Opening. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Open Public Meetings Act, statement is hereby made that adequate notice for this meeting was given by, wait, do I have to read this again, actually? We read this earlier. Yeah, I don't have to do it again. We could just do a roll call, right? Roll call?
Roll call we did. You come back to public.
Yeah, come back to public, yeah. There you go.
Oh, I see. Still
Oh, yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Second by the order.
That's what happens 3 years later. Opening statement. Meetings of the board are open to the public, and all members of the community should feel free to participate. There are two opportunities for the public to speak. The first is at the beginning of the meeting for agenda items only, and the second is at the end of the meeting for other items. Any individual desiring to speak shall give his or her name, address, and the group, if any, that is represented. The presentation shall be as brief as possible, but no more than 3 minutes per individual. There are certain matters that may be brought before the board that cannot be immediately addressed in public. Such matters may be referred by the president to a board committee and or to the superintendent for consideration and or resolution. And the board vests in its president or other presiding officer authority to terminate the remarks of any individual if he or she deems it in the best interest of those present to do so. Flag salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we have a couple of presentations tonight. The first, I think, is yours and Mr. Howard. So recognition of the Educators of the Year and the Educational Service. Oh, that's for next week, right? I'm moving ahead to next week. So we're just going to do, I think we have Dr. Herritz, and I think I saw Miss Casey out there. There you go. So every year for the new board members, this is Dr. Herritz, if you don't know Dr. Herritz, and his esteemed colleague, Casey Rizzatello. Did I say this correct? Excellent. Welcome. Happy New Year to you guys. So every year we have I don't know if you guys have gotten it, but basically it's a course book. It's basically the whole high school course book. It's about 60 pages. Is that close? 40 pages? More? It's 100. Is it that much? Oh, my God. It's like a college, literally. If you've never seen it, it's really, really impressive. It's actually overwhelming if you're a brand new ninth grade parent going, what am I looking at? So every year they come and present basically on the highlights of what's going on, what's new to the program, and any questions the board might happen or have. So the floor is yours, guys. Thank you.
Board President Reddy, may I just
Absolutely.
add just a quick qualification? So I'm not sure if I had mentioned this previously to the board. The program of studies is approved by the board, and it is on the agenda for the 28th. And so this presentation is always done, and that's been a benefit of the committee of the whole, is that the board can get the full presentation. Dr. Herritz and Mrs. Rizzatello will take you through all the relevant changes so that you can ask questions and ensure that the board's comfortable with any changes or additions before ultimately voting on it. Reason being that as soon as it's approved, the high school, moves forward with their master scheduling process and disseminates that program of studies to students and parents, and they begin doing their course selections, hence the timing of the presentation. So thank you, Mr. Reddy. It's all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Cascone. Good evening, Board of Ed members, visitors, welcome. I would like to start off just by thanking our department supervisors working on this last year with Mrs. Rizzatello, working on it this year again with Mrs. Rizzatello and our department supervisors. It really has morphed into a very thorough and a very complete, very detailed explanation of all of our offerings here at the high school, and it really helps shape the mission and our vision here. So I do want to say thank you, because it is a lot of work, plenty of meetings scheduled and choreographed by Mrs. Rizzatello. So thank you so much for everybody's input, everybody's help. It's very much appreciated to help make Holmdel as special as it is. Not very many changes in this year's program of studies. We still have our graduation requirements, 120 credits that are set forth by the state of New Jersey as well as our school district. But we do go through some of our departments and our specific content areas. 4 years of English, 3 years of mathematics. The third year of math also builds on the concepts of skills from years 1 and 2, as well as our sciences of 3 years, and then our social sciences, 3 years as well. This does allow for a lot of opportunity and as well as selection for our students to continue on in various subject areas after they meet the requirements. But it's important to note that while there are only 3-year requirements for sciences, 4 years is definitely preferred and required by certain colleges, and then such as physics that can be required for certain majors. Again, world language, 5 credits for 1 year, health and phys ed, our visual and performing arts, as well as our tech career education, and then financial literacy as our graduation requirements. There are 120 credits. Counting them up, there are some leeway for electives to finish out the final 12, 13 credits for your 4 years of high school. In the program of studies, you'll notice that there are, for each specific content area, there are course sequence maps. And this really lays out the pathway for our students starting in their freshman year, and then even going back to their time in middle school, particularly like in math, where if you do take Algebra 1 in 8th grade, when you come enter the high school, the different pathways open up because you can start at a higher level and then open up for other options in your junior and senior year. We do offer certain classes to run concurrently. As noted in the web, you'll see that geometry and honors geometry may be taken concurrently with other courses that are highlighted in blue, as well as scheduling information. It's on page 33 in the draft that you received. Course sequencing for ALA, as I mentioned, this one goes all the way back to 5th grade, and you can follow the web and you can follow the mapping so that by the time you are in high school, the options for honors classes, as well as 2 offerings for our AP selections in 11th and 12th grade. Our science sequencing, again, students must take 1 biology or life science, you'll see those outlined in blue, 1 chemistry, physics, or environmental science in green, and the choice of 1 lab science or laboratory and career-based courses.
Can I excuse me 1 second, Dr. Ertz? I apologize. I was under the impression that you had hard copies of this presentation in your binders. You do not? No. Is that correct? Okay. We can have hard copies made for you in order that you can, because this is pretty.
It's in the email that Giovanna sent.
Oh, it is. Okay. It's a link. All right. Very good.
It's still good to get a hard copy. If you don't have high school students, you want to see this book because this is a lot to absorb, and you can see it's almost like a college being run here, in my mind, of just how many different offerings and myriad ways you can go and everything else.
We like that a lot. Thank you. That's
I think it's like God.
Yeah. We highly recommend 4 years of a study in one of the science. Our social science classes here are labeled and marked out as well. Notice that requiring of 3 years of a social science from 9th through 11th grade sequencing, and a 4th year is strongly recommended. There have been some changes to course opportunities as well as course selections, which we will discuss further on in the slides upcoming.
So students at Holmdel High School have the opportunity to choose a career concentration pathway, which is beyond the general high school diploma. The Holmdel High School has career concentration pathways that offer students of all abilities and interests an opportunity to choose sequences of courses that are then reflected on their diploma and their transcript afterwards. The only thing that is that at the end of their senior year, we send out a Google form. They just self-report. Our counselors acknowledge that they fulfilled these requirements, and then they are awarded that on their transcript.
Casey, on that,
Sure.
I'm sure you guys do it. I hope you do it, or at least I hope the 6 guidance counts. It's 6 guidance counselors left. 5. It's 5. That's all. That they like career concentration is definitely important because obviously it's helpful for kids' resumes and especially what they want to do, to at least allow them to, if by 11th grade you want to do a career concentration in scientific research or visual arts, if you don't have your stuff prepared early enough, there's no way you're getting there, most likely. So hopefully they educate these kids, especially freshman year or early sophomore year, because then they really can't course correct. If you're junior year, you just a light finally goes on. Like, let me go do
I
do this for
disagree.
business.
I
It's
disagree.
harder,
It is,
harder.
well,
significantly harder.
But
do it.
personal experience,
Right.
my daughter decided nursing last year.
Right,
So when she
hard.
built it,
She
she
loaded up,
said
right?
she has 4 of the Rutgers courses because it was really, she only wanted to take 2, and then she was like, well, then I get a cord if I get 4. So half of her courses are in a concentration. So it is doable, and I'm sure that there was a lot of magic behind the scenes.
There was some fairy dust.
So,
But no, exactly, because I
It
know
is. It does become difficult if you decide, I would say, in your junior year. Of course, we try and make everything happen, but when we do our class presentations, which we will talk about, we do discuss career concentrations to the freshmen,
Yeah.
and then it goes out to the freshman parents, and then when they meet with them their freshman year, they do ask, are you interested in a career concentration? Just make sure that you're choosing 4 or 5 of the courses from here. But yes, it is
Right,
important to
because
do
it
it
gets even
early.
harder if you want to get 2. Like, you'll go there and you'll get some kids, I think the most we've ever seen is 3 or 4, which is really impressive. I mean, you have to sort of map it out properly because you just run out of time and number of half-year courses,
space.
full-year courses and things. Any new ones for this year, or is this the static from last year? Same?
No, we kept the same career
Okay, I
concentration.
mean, it is a lot, so, thank
There
you.
are a lot. I'm sorry, that's it. I'm cutting you off.
To speak a little further about those career concentrations, the counseling department does a wonderful job when they meet with students in preparing for their schedules for the following year. And those pathways are discussed as well as those interests of the students. So they do a great job. And the beauty of that program and all our career concentrations is that just by keeping electives open or by keeping those opportunities open to the students, they kind of indirectly fall into some of the required classes as is. So it's definitely worth the conversation that they have. One such one is our Rutgers Biomedical Health Program. The Rutgers Biomedical Health Program, it offers a sense of sequence options for high school students with a strong interest in the foundation of science, medicine, and biotechnology. These help students earn college credits, exposure to such communication and science skills within the field of expertise, and it helps them bridge the gap between our secondary education and higher education, essentially giving them a leg up. They could earn up to 15 credits by the examination, and then just for some of the classes and courses that we offer. This is not considered a dual enrollment partnership. However, the students enrolled in these classes, they could earn college credits.
One of the courses that we offer that fall at the tail end of the Rutgers healthcare sequence is Honors Certified Patient Care Tech. This program is still growing. Ms. Davis teaches this class. We capped it at 10 students. So upon the completion of this course and all the prerequisites, students have the opportunity to expand their engagement in the healthcare field by participating in an exam through the National Healthcare Association. This provides a student with a nationally recognized certification to begin working in the healthcare environment as a certified patient care tech. There was an update to the prerequisites for this course after a discussion with Ms. Colleen and Ms. Davis. So the prerequisites are now, they're listed there at the bottom of the screen. So it's dynamics of healthcare, med-term, advanced emergency and clinical care. And then we did move to allow students to take anatomy and physiology concurrently. And then new as of this year, we did secure a mentorship option through Bayshore. I would like to applaud the hard work of Ms. Colleen and Ms. Davis. It's awesome. Our students are paired with a mentor. They go out into the field. They learn so much about what it is to be a patient care technician and to be in a hospital, which is awesome. So moving forward with that, I will talk about this a little bit later, but there is an application now to get into the program since we are representing Holmdel when we go out into the hospital.
We do have some changes to our AP exams. In the graduating class of 2027 who complete the course and take an AP exam, they will receive additional weighting towards the grade. This is a continuation of the changes that were made in last year's program of studies. It does not pertain to the class of 2028 and after. college credit is possible to students who earn a 3 or higher on the AP test, but that is set forth and determined by each individual college. Effective for the 26-27 school year, after an inclusive conversation with central administration, and effective for the 26-27 school year, the district will no longer cover the cost of AP exams. Seniors will be grandfathered into the weighting scale, and it's important to know that students who do not participate in AP exams for their corresponding class will be required to take and participate in the final exam for the class.
And I just want to, I know this slide is written in definitive language. This is really, I think, as a full board, the first opportunity for you to hear this being proposed by the administration for a cessation of the payment. And it's made exclusively because of our efforts to preserve our staff and programs, and really the inability to reconcile the expenditure of $100,000 to fund exams. So happy, once the presentation is concluded, if that's a discussion point, and board members want to beat that up a little bit here in public and ask questions, but just so you know, that is the proposal vis-a-vis the budget process.
Will there be an opportunity for anybody to be able to declare any type of financial hardship that we would
Absolutely.
cover? Okay, then
Absolutely. Thank you.
God bless.
I don't know if I should say this now, and as to push for paying of AP classes, I think with this budgetary constraints, this is a good move. But I was also wondering then about the dual enrollment and others too, in light of budgetary constraints. I think they should probably all go together.
None of it's been paid for.
Nothing.
No,
Sorry?
even now, dual enrollment
Right,
is not
right,
paid
that's
for.
right, because it's just
It was
kind of.
only the
yes,
APs.
correct, yeah.
Our AP course offerings have been expanded this year. We have introduced 2 new AP classes. One is AP Cybersecurity, as well as AP Business with Personal Finance, which will also cover some other prerequisites and required graduation requirements that we'll talk to in a few minutes. But those are the 2 new additions for this year, and we're looking forward to those being introduced.
Dr. Hertz?
Yes.
I'm going to interrupt you again, just
Go ahead.
in the moment. This question may come up subsequently, but I figure it's better to answer it here in context as it relates to the budgetary constraints. Could you just speak to any budgetary implications, if any, related to these courses?
Yeah, so there's no impact to the current budget. There is no need for an additional staff. This is just an opportunity for course offerings. However, we will get to a slide in a few minutes when we talk about our financial literacy options. That has really opened the door and opened the opportunity for staff to teach additional courses like the ones we're offering now.
And not to further put you on the spot, but inquiring minds may want to know, associated PD, associated materials, textbooks, curricular resources that are needed to infuse into these new courses?
There you go. We have secured a lot through grants, and then our newest addition, I believe, to our business department, as well as in our math department, are able to teach these classes.
Outstanding. Thank you.
So MJ, when you look at the say just for the 2 new ones, obviously business with personal finance is going to go within the business section, whether it's Elliott Cohen, whoever other teacher is going to teach that. Is it anticipated will be one section, or you don't really have an idea what that would be? And seniors, juniors, or is it no prerequisite? Because I presume that comes with some prerequisites.
No, business with personal finance is designed to just be a standalone class.
Okay.
It will be offered to freshmen.
Not a stepstone. Okay.
And not a stepstone.
It's a
and-
kickstart, is that, did I use it
Not
right?
yet.
Oh, yeah,
It's a
yeah,
kickstart AP.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, with what we've done with financial literacy, it just opened up other
Yeah.
teachable opportunities.
And cybersecurity, where would that fall within? What sort of career concentration? What little world would that fall in?
Career
Business.
science.
Oh, computer science. Though. Okay, I take. Gotcha. Thank you.
So all these nice AP courses we offer, there's no financial implication in that our teachers are able to cover this without any additional teachers. But if we had to, hopefully not, reduce the number of teachers, then would some of them have to come down? Is an implication like that?
Yeah,
Clearly.
I wouldn't be able to answer that right now.
Right.
A lot of it is based on enrollment and how many students do express interest in the class, but it is another opportunity to have it. And as of now, there is no need for additional staffing or reworking or having other teachers.
And what is the minimum number of students you need in an AP course to sign up for it to be running?
We like to run 10 to 12. That's even on the leaner side. But again, a lot of it depends on the matrix of the rest of the schedule and if that's feasible or not, or if that teacher might be needed in another section or another course.
And Dr. Kahlur, if I might, just sort of predicting the train of thought there, in advance of the development of program of studies, I had conversations with Dr. Harris, Mr. Sotelo, to be going through the current enrollment of courses with a critical eye on identifying courses that are under-enrolled and that we are subsequently removed from the program of studies due to low enrollment. There is, as well as the staff implication, understanding that as we move forward in the budget process, there could be staff cuts. And it is what's the word? Sort of any cuts that would be made would be immune to that, if you will. So that was understanding the challenges of this budget going back to last year, as we had these planning conversations in the fall. Their process was informed with that idea, if you will.
The only reason they wouldn't run is if they had under-enrollment.
Correct, yes. Our dual enrollment partnerships and understanding with university and colleges remains the same with our institutions. There is an addition of accounting through NJIT that we've added for this year. But with Brookdale, Seton Hall, NJIT, for instance, Brookdale's a partnership through our VPA. Seton Hall is our world language and sociology. NJIT is math and sciences. Stockton is through STEM and VPA. The University of Delaware is our entrepreneurial or experience through business. And then Kane is with our honors Holocaust and genocide classes.
NJIT, the accounting had an asterisk and
That's
was
the
bold.
newest one.
So that was a
added
new
this
one?
year. Yes.
Okay,
That
so there
the
was a
addition
new one.
I did say, just
okay.
one addition.
Perfect.
So MJ, that list has grown over the years, which is great. And it's really only been the last couple of years where it's really gone up a lot, which is outstanding.
16 the first year, which was last year. This year, you're at 26,
Yeah,
and now you're
last
going to be
year
27.
was the big jump last
It's impressive.
year. Yeah.
Here's one question I have, and obviously my kids are graduated, it's past it. So if you go back a few slides, you have your AP courses. The only way you can get college credit for an AP course, correct me if I'm wrong, is if you score three or higher on a 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But and that's obviously rigor of a course. Then you could take these new courses, the dual enrollment. You pay your $375, like my son did for Italian, whatever it was, and essentially, the Seton Hall, I think it was, and you get credit for it. It just seems to me like easier route is I'll go dual enrollment all day, right? I don't have to get a 3. I don't have to get a 4. It's hard to get a 3 or 4 in AB, infinite calculus, whatever it might be. Where I go take one of these, dual enrollments, I just got to sit through the course, get through it, and I get my 3 credits.
I think
It just seems, you know where I'm
No,
going? It just seems
correct.
like, it's almost like you're getting penalized. You're taking an AP level course. Say you get a 2. Say you don't prepare. Say you take macroeconomics, brutally hard, right? And you take that AP test at the end of the year after you took macro in the first semester. Totally forget it. Then you take micro, and then you don't get credit at all. So, but yet you obviously sat for it. You get the benefit from that perspective. But no college credit. Don't get to save thousands. Where dual enrollment, you do. I'm just.
Yeah, I think it's two different discussions, and we have a lot of students taking dual enrollment and AP courses for different reasons, right?
Yes.
You're taking the AP course and obviously hopes that you're going to pass the AP exam and potentially apply that. But you also want that on your transcript because you're trying to show that you are taking the highest level course and you're showing the rigor when you're applying to a college. Whereas some of the students that take the dual enrollment courses, they might be more interested in getting that financial aid or strictly the experience in that class. So I feel like it really depends on the student, and that's why it is student preference. We have multiple students that take AP courses and the dual enrollment at the same time, and they will actually share that they're taking the AP course more about the rigor. The dual enrollment is the guaranteed credit that they're looking for, but AP is really what they're showing as a student to a college.
I agree. I just know my kid took both, so I'm like, oh, that'd be much easier. Just take all the dual enrollment ones. I was like, it's hard to get a 3 sometimes.
Yeah, and I also think it's the testament and the beauty of what we do to meet our students where they're at, correct? We have students who are high flyers. They want to take as many AP classes as possible. But when there's not an AP course offering in an interest or in class that they want to take, that's where a lot of the distinction between AP and our dual enrollment exists.
Hopefully, when we do the 8th grade, what do you call that? When we do the, they come to the school, the band comes, open house, thank you. Hopefully, this is big time advertised dual enrollment and AP because
it is.
that's a driver to go to biotech, high tech, and all these
Right,
other.
and we have representatives from these universities
Correct,
here,
great,
which
yeah.
is great.
Like I know you go to St. John Vianney, I know kids walking out of there with a semester and a half worth of credits. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. It's thousands and thousands of dollars you're saving their parents. So, thanks.
Okay, as previously shared, we are planning to add 2 courses to this upcoming school year, AP Cybersecurity and AP Business with Finance. So these 2 courses are part of the College Board's new Kickstart program. They have examined skills and knowledge across multiple careers, and they've created courses that enhance career-specific skills and aligns to specific programming used in those careers. These courses use real-world case studies and projects to support students in applying concepts and leadership skills. And the long-term goal of the College Board Kickstart program is to help students earn employer-endorsed credentials at the completion of the course and the passing exam. So right now, their first 2 courses that they are kicking off with are cybersecurity and business with personal finance.
Are there AP exams? Are these 2? It's the same exact
Yes.
kind of, okay.
I just went to a webinar and they talked about applying a lot of real world scenarios within the exam. So it would be project based and like assessment based. That's their goal. They haven't completely developed the assessments. So on to our new courses. I know I speak on behalf for the administrative team here that worked on developing this. We're very excited about our new courses. So again, one is AP Business with Personal Finance. So just to talk a little bit more about that, it's an introductory college-level business and personal finance course. It utilizes project-based learning and real-world application and satisfies the state personal financial literacy requirement. AP Cybersecurity provides a college-level introduction to cybersecurity, focusing on common threats, vulnerabilities, and risk management strategies, while examining cybersecurity's impacts on individuals, organizations, and societies. Money markets and investing builds on prior financial learning by examining how stocks, market forces, and economic conditions influence investment decisions. Podcast production incorporates components of the former Video and Editing 1, which I'll go on to talk a little bit more about that class, that course, while exploring the evolution of media. Throughout the course, students will work on audio and video recording, editing, and production. And then onto something I'm going to try and move as slowly as I can through this because it is a major change in our social sciences department. So we noticed as an administrative team, as well as getting feedback from our counseling department, students had limited options for a true honors track in the history department. So we've developed 2 courses to address this, and we've reworked the curriculum and the other courses. Students will now have an opportunity to take a true honors US 1, 10th grade, and a true honors US 2, their 11th grade. Which brings me to the adjusted courses. So we rebranded our 2-year APUSH sequence. The first half of the course will be taken in 10th grade, and it's now called Accelerated United States History 1, Pre-Civil War. There's no exam associated with this course, but because students are participating in AP work, they are going to receive AP weighting in their GPA. The second part of the 2-year course is AP United States History Post-War. So it's the same exact course, we just kind of rebranded their names while also allowing students to have a true honors selection in their 10th and 11th grade. Students who wish to take the APUSH exam must complete Accelerated United States History Pre-Civil War and the second part, which is Advanced Placement United States History Post-War. Students who take Honors US 1, their 10th grade year, are not eligible to take Advanced Placement United States History 1 Post-War because they would be missing the first half of that course. I'm going to pause there. That was a lot. No? Everybody got it? Accounting 1 and Accounting 2 have been merged to create a full-year accounting course that will cover content across both previous courses, and this change allowed us to get the dual enrollment certification for NJIT, so this was really important to us. And then, like accounting, Video and Editing 1 and 2 have been merged into Video and Editing, and then the same with photography. Photography 1 and 2 have been merged into just photography. Just some additional updates that you would see throughout the hard copy of the program of studies. So our prerequisite scoring just follows a 73, 83, 93 scoring for all course grades, which means you won't see a prerequisite of an 80 in one course content and an 82 in another course content. They all follow a 73, 83, 93. As I spoke about patient care tech before, we did update the prerequisites for that class, and that there's an application process, and then you have to qualify for the mentorship because you have to be in good conduct standing to be able to go out and represent us in Bayshore. The Rutgers course exam, the costs associated with the Rutgers examinations are the responsibility of the student and the family, which aligns with our AP change that we talked about earlier. Dr. Harritz is going to go on to talk about financial literacy in a moment, but they will have 3 options. It will be a free online option, the AP business class, or the on-level semester financial literacy class. Engineering and design capstone now includes advanced robotics as a prerequisite option, which is really awesome because it created more prerequisite courses for students to do more independent work. So essentially, there are more students that have an opportunity to participate in engineering and design capstone. And then AP Psychology, the science grade is not waiver eligible. So AP Psychology draws heavily on prior content knowledge in science, and as such, students who do not meet the science prerequisite cannot waive into the course. For those that do not meet the prerequisite of the science score, we do have an on-level psychology course available. Some more additional updates. As a supervisory team and administrative team, we really worked at making sure that our notices and when we're having submission deadlines and review fall on an 8 a.m., 4 p.m. time. So no more 11:59 p.m. If you want to work until 3 a.m., so be it, because we're not, well, Gwen and I might get up in 30 minutes, but we're not reviewing the work at 3 a.m. So if we are not intending to review something until the next day, it'll be an 8 a.m. deadline. If we are reviewing something that afternoon, it's a 4 p.m. deadline.
Didn't you make that change last year?
We
Or-
started making it within the submission of assignments
Yeah.
in the classroom, but our language here still fell with a weird 11:59. So we just tried to be consistent and make sure that we're really giving you all the opportunity before we really check it.
I can tell you, for all the students that aren't listening tonight and all the students that came before them, that was huge, because I was like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I got this thing doing 20 minutes. And I'm like, it's 10:30 at night. And, obviously 11:59 was the witching hour. So,
Yep.
Then they worked till 2, 3 in the morning. It was great. So,
We also updated our prerequisites for Intro to Computer Science and Advanced Placement Computer Science Principles, which is now open to 9th grade students, to make it more eligible for 9th grade students. We strongly encourage families to gauge whether or not their student has an interest in computer science before registering and pursuing these courses. Previously, Holocaust and Genocide and Modern Humanity Studies had the prerequisite of standing up to intolerance to be taken at SATs. However, the updated prerequisites allow for students that do not participate in standing up to intolerance or a transfer-in students to have the opportunity and be prepared for the content. So you'll see that they're just experiential learning and alternative foundational work to prepare you for the course if you had not completed SUDI. And then AP Macro and Micro, they were updated to reflect English and math. Their prerequisites should just be more strongly aligned with the content.
Yes, it was. As we hinted at before, there have been some changes to financial literacy and the delivery of that course here at the high school. Beginning in 2026, when we return in the fall, students will have 3 options to choose from to complete their financial literacy requirement. Option A is to complete a free online independent course on Khan Academy, and there'll be a link to that academy and that option there. Option B is to successfully complete our full year course for freshmen or sophomores or other students who want to enroll in AP Business with Personal Finance. That curriculum satisfies the financial literacy requirements set forth by the state. And then there's option C for students who to complete the semester elective financial literacy and economics, as well as any student by their junior year meeting, which is at the end of their sophomore year. If they have not yet completed this or any of these options, they will be scheduled into a sit-in class for their junior year. Our current 10th and 11th grade students will be provided this opportunity to complete the full financial literacy through option A until July 16th. So that will cover, and that is one of the ways that we alleviated quite a number of freshmen. I think we had 160 freshmen scheduled into financial literacy this year alone. So by offering this option, it does alleviate some staff members and free them up to teach other courses like we hinted at as far as
And it
our new
allows
learners.
students that choose that to have another elective
Correct.
towards one of those course concentrations
Yes.
that they might want.
Yeah,
So
it's
great.
definitely an opportunity for students.
But I hope we're not, I don't want to say blowing off the course.
No, we're
Because
not.
it's still a very important course. I remember when we used to get feedback from the seniors after they graduate, and one of the things we would get frequently, I mean, you would say, okay, what's the most things they're complaining about or saying we could do better, was, all right, I'm a freshman. Why in the world am I taking a financial literacy course? I don't have a credit card. I don't have a bank account. I'm not going for a job. I'm not doing any of these things. It was totally misplaced time-wise, even though the great majority of kids, my kids and everyone's kids who had high school kids, basically take this course freshman year. I remember, there was a kid, a senior, like Haroon, who was our president years ago. He took it as a senior. There was like 26 other freshmen, and Haroon, the senior, who could drive, who bought bagels and everything else. And it was entertaining.
But now it goes to junior year if they haven't taken it,
Right.
which is the right timing. But I bet
It's better, yeah.
I bet you more than half of the people are going to try to get into the AP business/personal finance. Based on the community we live in, I think a lot
Right.
of people are going to try that.
Yeah,
I just know it's a
that quick
valuable
start.
course that's, hopefully they don't miss it, because there are real things like, what's a check? Oh, I have a check, I have money,
is, and I think it's pertinent for them to understand
Yeah.
those principles and to have that instruction. It's just offered now in a couple of
Yeah, which is great.
opportunities for them.
Many
which is
different
great.
venues.
I just want to tap in there too, because we had many discussions about moving this online, but I know that Ms. Lauder has reviewed a lot of curriculum, and the curriculum offered through Khan Academy is extremely robust, and it takes there's a lot of hours. We actually made sure that it aligns with the amount of hours that they're teaching in class, that they're given the right amount of videos, so that they really understand the content, and not
Excuse me. Is this the only financial course that's available as an elective online, and the other ones are all in-course instruction?
Yes.
In-class instruction? Okay, thank you.
Moving on to option 2 for physical education. So students in grades 10 through 12 are eligible for option 2 through pathways A and D. Actually, I should backtrack. Just so you're aware, if you're not familiar with option 2, we allow students to participate in option 2, which satisfies their graduation requirement for physical education. We have multiple pathways. It's pathway A through D, so I will reference certain pathways, but you can actually find more about what each pathway is on the option 2 website. So again, students in grades 10 through 12 are eligible for option 2 through pathways A through D. So they essentially have every pathway allowed for them. Students, sorry, go.
Go ahead. I just want to add something before you move on to the next slide.
Okay. And students in grade 9 are eligible for option 2 through pathway C only, which is an approved off-campus physical activity, which is something we started last year. So there is no change to the opportunities that students have to participate by grade in option 2. Those planning to pursue athletic activities for credit at Holmdel High School must request this through the scheduling portal and are required to submit a completed application to the principal's option 2 review committee no later than April 13th at 8 a.m. That application is a simple Google form, and it indicates what pathway you will be taking to earn your credit. Off-campus forms are due to the supervisor of health and PE, Mr. Casal, by May 15th, 2026. The off-campus form is if you're going to choose a mix of utilizing an athletic team and off-campus or strictly off-campus. So that form, again, is due to Mr. Casal to review by May 15th. And then students without a regularly scheduled study hall, which is identified as a period in the schedule of rotation, are eligible for option 2. If you already have a study hall in your schedule, you are not eligible to take option 2. Did you want to talk now?
Yeah. So just to give you a little bit of color on option 2, so this resides in New Jersey Administrative Code 6A. It was brought to being, if you will, this was going back to the late 90s under New Jersey Commissioner of Education William Librera, and it's reflected within our high school graduation policy and all high school graduation policies that speaks to individualized student learning experiences. It creates opportunities for students to design alternate experiences through which they can obtain college credit. And I will add that it is not under code or under our policy restricted only to PE. So if a student had an opportunity, for an elective, for example, let's say, for example, that they were they trained professionally in ballet, right? And they wanted to utilize that to satisfy a fine arts elective. They could present a proposal to do that, reviewed, as long as it met the requirements under the policy and under code, they could do that. Most people know option 2 is PE, and 99.9% of our students do option 2 in PE, but that's not the only thing they can do under our policy and under the code. So I just thought I'd add that for anyone who's curious.
And there's a list of things they can do, or you can propose your own.
Yeah.
So our students that are in our, is it called Explorer program for the police cadets as well?
Mm-hmm.
And fire, is this an option for them to?
Sure. I mean,
Okay.
they would have to dovetail it into,
Okay.
into an existing course requirements, content area, if you will.
Okay.
But they most certainly could do that. It has to have an assessment component or some sort of a gatekeeping component. Did you
As
mention?
well as a time requirement, like
That's
you're
right.
supposed to hit the 150 minutes per week.
Okay.
So that's also one of the constraints as well.
That's right.
Working with one of the 3 pathways technically. That's the main requirement. for it.
Okay.
I mean, generally speaking, say you play soccer right in the fall. You're going to take option 2 if you want to. Otherwise, some kids want to go to gym because they like to go to gym. Otherwise, you take option 2. You don't have to go to gym. You get a study hall, or you get to take another elective. So you're good there. You don't have to provide anything to Mr. Casal, things like this. Then next period, say you're a sophomore or a junior, you're taking driver's ed or health. So there's no option 2 for that semester. Third semester, you don't have a sport. You don't wrestle, you don't play basketball, whatever. Now you basically go to Fit Factory, and every month I think there's a thing you got to give them the forms.
Every week.
Every weekend. You fill it out, and they do it at the end of the month because they're always late, or whatever it was. They wait till the last hour, fill it out, exercise this long, and all those different things. And then you do that for the next semester, and kids could do it. Do you know approximately 100, 200? We have a lot to do option 2, right?
I believe there were 260 students
Yeah,
this
and
year enrolled in
it's a
option
lot.
2.
It's and obviously you look at most of the kids in this district are in pretty good shape. So it's not like like they're getting over they could really use PE. So and a lot of times, unfortunately, PE it's I don't want to say a waste of their time, but it's not as strenuous as other things can be. So I think we instituted this about 6-7 years ago, maybe even longer. It's been a bunch of years now, and it's everyone knows about it. So freshmen can do it. It sounds like now.
Freshmen can take pathway
As of last
C.
year, right?
Yes, they can do pathway C, which is that off-campus.
Like going to a gym or a
Correct,
Fit
yes.
Factory or Lifetime.
They are going to make or fully participate in, so we are giving them the option, but the only option is an off-campus.
Cool. Thank you.
Question.
And just so you guys know, most of the students that do it, they end up taking, because it can't be a study hall, so my daughter's doing it, and she's took a second science. My other daughter is doing it, and she did 2 extra electives so that she can start to work on pathways as a sophomore. So, Joanne?
So, question, so that's great for the student if they're doing something else that's also value add, but what is the gym teacher doing if all these kids are out of that class?
Well, there's still a considerable amount. There's still over 700 students.
I see.
Taking gym classes, and it is determined upon the cycle of what pathway they're in. So someone who's in a fall sport will participate in option 2 for the spring, some marking periods, but it is determined by what pathway. And then they're also teaching health.
Got it, thank you.
Yep. The changes for our option 2 for this year is that students will receive a pass-fail grade for each marking period that they are in for phys ed. Students meet all eligible requirements who successfully complete the course. For each year, will receive that pass-fail and then earn the 3.75 credits for their phys ed. The course will appear on the student's transcript, but it will not be factored into their overall GPA. Only the grade that they earn in health will be calculated into the GPA, and that stands at 1.75 credits of the 5 credits each year for health and phys ed. And then all credits earned, the full 5 credits will count toward their graduation requirement.
And health is 9th, 11th, 12th?
All 4 years.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Well, phys ed is 10th grade. I'm sorry.
Driver's ed, right,
is-
yeah,
is-
exactly.
But that counts as the health requirement.
Right, that's what I
Yes.
mean, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to go through a little bit about the scheduling process. This will include a lot of the high school, a little bit about SATs, and then some of like 6th grade. So on January 30th, the Program of Studies release letter will go out to high school families. Additionally, on January 30th, the placement letter and criteria will go out to students in rising 6th through 9th grade families. This is important to note because students who are rising 9th graders need to pay attention to the notification from Mrs. Simonelli because that will include placement criteria, which will also be published on our school website, so you can find it there. But our Programs of Studies information will come from Dr. Harritz. And this letter will include any information about after-school placement testing. On February 24th and 25th, all of our counselors will be presenting to our class meetings. So we break them up in a full auditorium by class. We present about the entire course selection process, including any updates to our program of studies, changes to prerequisites, or changes to our process. March 3rd to the 16th is when the high school portal will open and close. And then March 27th through April 13th, is when SAT's portal will open and close. On June 29th, future course lists will be sent home for high school students, which includes courses which require waiver work. And then rising 6th through 8th grade students will receive their ELA and math placement sent home on the same date, which includes their waiver eligibility. On July 16th, any course change requests, that's for at the high school, are due at 8 a.m. And then any rising 6th through 8th grader, their actual waiver applications are due by 8 a.m. that day. On August 3rd, all of the waiver work is due 8 a.m., no exceptions. And then on August 20th, we will be opening up the portal at 8 a.m. for students and parents to review their schedule.
See, this is all, that was all standard from last year too, right?
Not much has changed.
I've always had a question though. Why August 3rd? Like I know, like thankfully the kids haven't had waiver work, but I know many kids that do it. And obviously, July 26th, I go, crap, I have this whole math packet to do or a whole science packet. And obviously they needed to get into whatever honors or AP course they want to do. Is it that early because you guys need the time over the next 3 weeks? Because if you don't have it by then to figure out where to put people?
Yeah, because they are going to end up dropping a level, and that could impact some of our master scheduling that we've already created and staffing.
'Cause I know that was always a complaint, like we're in the middle of the summer. Why is this, due now? I'm like, I don't know. I don't run the school. It's okay. So I thought.
For rising 9th graders, for ELA and math, students will be placed into the next course in the typical course sequence, which is outlined in the program of studies. For science and social studies, students will be rostered into world civilizations and biology by default. During their individual scheduling meeting with their counselors, students will have the opportunity to request a level change. Counselors will review the level change, including prerequisite requirements, required placement tests, and necessary waiver work with those students. Waivers will not be approved for any 9th grade students who are further than 10 points from the required prerequisite grade. So again, if we go back to the scheduling process, this all happens in a conversation with a counselor. Their course requests get updated, and then a student sees on a letter that's very specific, you did not meet the requirements, you have waiver work. So we make sure it's like another line to make sure students understand that they do have to participate in the waiver work for specific courses. Placement assessments are required for honors and AP level science and social science courses and for students wishing to move from on-level to honors English 9. The science assessment will occur after school this year, and the social studies and ELA assessments will occur during school. And again, students will be notified of their waiver status by June 29th through a letter sent to both students and parents. For rising 10th graders, students have the opportunity to choose any of their courses through the scheduling portal, so there's no default except for health and phys ed. Students and parents have the opportunity to choose courses in which they wish to waive into through the portal. Again, the counselors review their courses, waiver work, and prerequisite requirements with students, and students who are further than 10 points from the required prerequisite grade will not be permitted. And then for rising 11th and 12th graders, they have the opportunity to choose all courses, and they are notified, much like the other grades, if they are a waiver student through the letter distributed at the end of June.
So just going back real quick to the rising 9th grader, there was discussion about, the summer work, like where they can advance themselves if they weren't in Algebra 1, 8th grade. are we still allowing some type of coursework over the summer? I'm getting a yes. Okay, so that
Yes,
they
and
can do
it's
it
eventually
that
in there
summer?
too, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Working through that timeline that Mr. Zitello just shared, course changes are always subject to seat availability. So prior to the start of the school year, students needing a schedule change, they have to have their changes in by July 16th. And then the valid reasons, and some of those reasons there are listed as to why they are requesting a change in a class schedule, an error in placement, if the work of a prerequisite is determined that they're in the wrong class or in a wrong selection, or summer school attendance not met, dropping down a level in a course, meeting a graduation requirement for seniors, as well they would get selected and moved into classes, and then an elective course change also changes the matrix of their scheduling. There's no changes granted for teacher preference, and due to seat availability, any course request changes are always, they're not guaranteed because they are determined by courses that are already filled. During the school year for general schedule changes, students have the until this year, at least September 15th, and that allows for 2 full rotations of our drop schedule. So by then, if students need to change their schedule, it must be made by September 15th of this upcoming school year. Transfers to a lower level class, if after school begins and a necessary change is deemed appropriate, students can transfer to a lower level class. It will be completed if the availability in that lower level class exists. And if that class is already full, the change can't be accommodated, but such an adjustment must take place by December 2nd. That gives them the entire first marking period, as well as our teacher conferences, to have that discussion and that communication with the teacher if there are any difficulties that the student might be exhibiting throughout that first marking period and deem a change to a lower level course. If a course is dropped after December 2nd, students who dropped the course will receive a withdrawal pass or a withdrawal fail on their transcripts. And the student must remain in the drop course for the rest of the semester when a new scheduling can be made for our semester course. These changes, or the schedule changes, and these procedures are the exact same ones that we have been practicing this year as well. It's important to note that the student's current grade in the dropped course will transfer to the new course exactly as earned without any weighting applied. Only the name of the new class, though, appears on the transcript, and the student schedule will most likely be impacted due to the amount of changes that might be necessary to accommodate the level change.
The question, is this for if the teacher decides that the placement is not appropriate, or?
Those
the
communications
student?
between the teacher and the student and the family are always held, and a lot of it is by design of if the student is struggling in the class. We do offer multiple opportunities for extra help. Some students, do attend a tutoring session, but there are numerous accounts of communication between the family and the teacher to address any kind of concerns that they might have.
Okay.
If a student enrolls in a higher course than the one that they're recommended for, they are considered to have waived into the course. As we shared before, rising 9th and 10th graders are eligible to waive into a course if their final grade average is within 10 points of the prerequisite grade as listed as in the program of studies and the 2026-27 placement criteria. And again, they'll be notified of their waiver status on June 29th through a letter sent home. Students who choose to waive into a course after June 29th need to submit a Google form to me by July 16th at 8 a.m. and they just must indicate that they're a waiver student. So when they indicate on the Google form, it'll say like change of elective, moving to a different class, interested in something else, change in science. One of the options is wishing to waive into a course. I then review it with the course content supervisors, and if they're eligible, I email them and then also remind them that they have to do waiver work when needed. And again, no waivers are permitted after 8 a.m. on July 16th. And there is no extension of the waiver work.
Can I ask a question about waivers? I know there was a lot of back and forth with a lot of communication between parents. But this is what we settled on last year,
Mm-hmm.
right? Similar to last year, and it's stable, and everybody seems satisfied with it.
There's actually no change except for us allowing them to work on it past 12 in the morning. And then they actually get the nice 3 additional days because we're not going to check it until 8 a.m.
Okay.
So again, on waiver work, students must submit the required waiver work by August 3rd at 8 a.m. and there's no extensions. Students who do not complete their summer waiver work by the deadline will be rostered in their recommended course. And waiver work needs to be completed in addition to the assigned summer assignment or coursework for each course that they're enrolling in. And a full list of the high school courses that require waiver work can be found in the program of studies. We instituted this last year. Fortunately, we didn't have any students that need to participate in this, but again, any student who does not meet the prerequisite requirements to move from a level 2 to a level 3 course must complete the summer waiver work and pass a placement exam to be enrolled in the level 3 course. This is just a list of courses that require summer assignments. And then on to summer advancement. I'm really proud of our summer advancement. So over the last 2 years of offering summer advancement, we're hovering at over a 50% success rate in the advancement process. And students who are successful in their completion of the advancement are showing continued success in the subsequent course that they enroll in. So this is a little bit about the process. Eligibility, we did after this presentation last year and much discussion, we offered it to rising 9th graders. So rising 9th graders with above a 90 or above final average in Honors Math 8 or Algebra 1 are eligible. And then rising 10th through 12th graders with at or above a 90% final average in their current math course are eligible. A little bit of the process overview. They need to qualify, then they need to research and choose a summer study platform. Ms. Lauder has compiled some options. They can certainly search for something else because they are going to have an approval process after they submit their interest, which needs to be in by June 1st. They're going to meet with Ms. Lauder, which needs to happen on or before June 8th. And then they need to submit their proof of registration on or before June 19th at 8 a.m. Afterwards, they complete the approved coursework and present proof of completion with at least 80% correctness by August 18th at 8 a.m. And then they need to take the aligned course competency assessment for the approved courses. And then there are 2 dates and times, which you'll see August 19th from 9 to 11 or August 20th from 12 to 2 p.m.
So that's like a self-directed type course? Is there financial burden on the district for that, or?
No.
Okay. And I
No.
remember years ago, I don't know if this is of similar talk, is we used to get like Title I monies for like summer programs. That's obviously beyond this,
Yeah.
like for kids that were falling behind, things like this. Do we still get those Title I monies, or are those gone? Or was that like learning loss from COVID and all that? Is that?
We had gotten, during COVID,
That was great.
that was above and beyond the Every Student Succeeds Act, Title I, II, III,
Yeah.
IV. That was the American Rescue Plan, and that, we still do receive Title I funds.
Just not as much.
Stanley, do you know offhand exact ballpark what we get in Title I funds?
Denise is over there, she's probably not paying attention. I think it's about 80 to 100,000, something
Yeah.
like that. But we did this year put money in for that additional help. There is money being used for that.
I mean, we leverage, and we don't get a ton of money through the Every Student Succeeds Act, formerly known as No Child Left Behind, but we use every penny and put it to good use.
Yeah, I know. We leveraged the heck out of that a bunch of years ago, and it got even more wildly popular. First year was sort of like slow acting, like a lot of parents didn't know about it, but then once they learned it was free and it helped the kids and made sure they got into the class they wanted, our summer halls were pretty full those years.
Just to go back on that. So that link, I know we're not on it, but when we discuss online or in person, these are not courses that are taught in person or online by our Holmdel teachers or Holmdel staff. These are students that are seeking out these summer study platforms, whether it be registering through EduSeer, utilizing a Khan Academy. We've had students that have gone to Princeton, Rutgers for an in-person course. And Ms. Lauder does also work with the student if they're having a difficult time deciding on what course must be best for them, because at the end of the day, they're going to spend their money, and they have to have 80% correctness and then pass the final as well. So to earn promotion through the summer advancement, the coursework has to have an 80% in the approved course and then a 75% on the aligned course competency assessment as required. In order to advance into an honors level course for the following school year through advancement, the honors level course competency assessment must be taken in the summer. Students who earn a 65 to a 74% on the honors course competency assessment will be able to advance to the next course, but they will be placed in the non-honors level. And then those are just, sorry, excuse me, the list of courses that are available for advancement. And then specific to trigonometry, students who earn a passing score in trigonometry are not eligible for honors pre-calc. They're only eligible for pre-calc.
Before we close, I do just want to say thank you for your attention. I know it's not easy to sit through. There's a lot of information that we put into the program of studies. But like I said earlier, it is a testament to the work of our department supervisors, the numerous conversations, a lot of meetings that we hold to discuss these things, really to give all the students here the best opportunities that we can to assure their success as well as their time here in our building. So I do want to say thank you very much to our department supervisors as well as Mr. Zatello for the coordination of this tremendous amount of work that really goes into it all, and for you guys to look through it and then for it to help drive our instruction here at the high school.
Thank you, MJ. We have a couple of new board members, so can you do me a favor? Yes. Can you bring up Miss Colleen? Can you bring up Miss Lauder? Because a few of the board members do not, may not be aware of what they do, who they are, and things like this. And this is our first committee of the whole meeting, so if they wouldn't mind just introducing themselves, and especially for newer board members that don't have high school students, these ladies are foreign to them most likely.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Miss Colleen.
Alicia Colleen, Science, Engineering, Technology.
And Miss Colleen has been here how many years? Thank you.
Gwen Lauder, K-12, Math, and Business.
Valerie Source, ELA and ESL. I haven't started yet. That'll be February 17th.
Denise Rubel, Social Studies, K-12, been here longer.
Denise is very humble. In addition to K-12 social studies, she also oversees our multi-tiered system of supports, gifted and talented, as well as our Every Student Succeeds Act grants. So quite a footprint.
Just want to say thank you, and this is why our, the high school is the flagship of our district. We have wonderful schools and teachers in all levels, but when it comes down to it, this is what it is. And down to even today, my daughter was very excited because she got to dissect a brain in class, and I was telling my intern about it, and she was like, wait, I didn't do that when I was in my anatomy and physio. And I'm like, this is different. We're just, we go above and beyond. So thank you guys.
And of course, board members, you'll have access to this for a week. It was a lot of info, right? So if in reviewing it in advance of next Wednesday you have any questions, feel free to send them to me, and I'll make sure you get the answers you need.
And I'm not letting you off the hook yet, Dr. Hertz. Any board members have any questions for Dr. Hertz? I want to make sure, at least if you guys have anything else, any other comments. So I see none. The only thing I would ask is if you could, because we have you and we don't get you guys that often, is the GPA. So obviously, can you spend 30 seconds, 60 seconds, quick elevator pitch on what the GPA is in the district? Obviously, we go, 4.0, we go 5.5, 5.0, 4.5, like what's an honors, weighting and, and do we still do 5.5 or all those kids now weighted out?
We currently are still in a 5.5 for our seniors.
Right, that's what I thought, okay.
And juniors, I believe. 2027. So the class of 2026 and the class of 2027, they're still weighted out to a 5.5 GPA. The designation for that is honors, AP, and then AP with the exam. So if you take an AP with an exam, that grade that you get is weighted out to a 5.5. For the class, beginning with the class of 2028 and 2029, that 5.5 is no longer there. It's now down to a 5.0 because we took out the weighting with the AP exam. So it'll go back to a 5.0.
Thank you. Yeah, because so history on that, previous boards, when we had a goal of increasing AP sitting, kids taking AP tests or taking AP courses, we did that, and then we found out a lot of kids weren't taking the course. So we found out, okay, why? Okay, they can't afford it. It's on a Saturday. don't want to take exam. So we got rid of the Saturday test. We usually did it during the day. We took care of the finance piece, and then we, did whatever we could to, and we obviously increased it. Then the biggest carrot was moving it to 5.5. And unfortunately, what we learned is over the years is we're one of the few districts that have like a 5.5 weighting scale.
Correct.
Which sort of like it made it like sort of like a little higher. So a couple of years ago we drew it back in, but to make it fair and equitable, we said, okay, we can't sort of it's wrong for the freshmen and sophomores that they were 2 years in to have a course that don't work. So basically, now it's year 4 and we'll eventually get through it for the last year.
Two
So
more years, right. Yep, 2 more classes.
thank you. Any questions for MJ and Casey?
I think it's an excellent presentation. I feel like I should join the high school and take all these courses. They seem really good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right. And one thing it would be good, especially if you don't have high school students, and maybe this could be a town-wide thing or something like this, is we have such, especially within this complex, and we did it years ago, and some people came, to almost have like a tour at night or something like this. If we want to, for the taxpayers they're paying, to see what this school can offer. I mean, who knows who will show up, but I mean, you go to the media center or the TV studio, engineering lab might be something to, even for board members, if you haven't seen it, find time to go walk these hallways. There's some pretty impressive things out there. Brings us to questions and comments from public on action items only, which shouldn't have any because we don't have any action items only. BOE liaison reports. So that would be our kids, not here. Subcommittee reports. We didn't have any subcommittees.
Negotiations.
Oh, yeah. I didn't. Okay, yeah. For what we can speak about. Thank you.
Yes. I just prepared a quick statement, just given the nature of the conversations. So over the past 2 weeks, the HTEA and the Negotiations Committee met twice and continued to build on the progress since we began negotiations in February of last year. While there is still work ahead before reaching a final agreement, conversations remain productive and focused on finding viable solutions in advance of fact-finding, which will, amongst other things, cost the district money. It is absolutely critical to acknowledge that achieving a sustainable agreement will require shared sacrifice from both the board and union membership. Our priority remains ensuring both short and long-term fiscal stability for the district while minimizing the impact on operations and, most importantly, our people, students and staff, and programs. Given the financial reality, reductions in force are inevitable, and the board remains committed to doing whatever it can to reduce that impact. As we have stated consistently over the past several years, especially in the last year, the fiscal cliff is no longer theoretical, it is here. It is a structural challenge that will persist year after year. We remain committed to working collaboratively to negotiate a contract that benefits our students, faculty, staff, and our taxpayers.
Thank you, Allison. Well said. I'm not going to comment on it because I know in old business, which we're up to, the first thing we have was a financial overview, which I think was Dr. Cascone and Deb.
Deb, were you going to present from the podium or just from the dais? Okay. Yeah, let me tee you up, though. May I tee you up? Okay. So, as I've been noting in my community newsletters, we committed that starting in the new calendar year, in the lead up to the not to exceed budget, which will be presented to the board in March, that we were going to place our budget, providing financial information not only to the board but to the community, a regular occurrence. Every opportunity we had to do that, to help educate the community on the numbers, on the fiscal challenges. Of course, understanding that the budget is still in development and there are certain things that remain in flux, amongst them, state aid and things of that nature. Starting with the financial situation, I think will also help contextualize the ongoing discussions about the prospect of the outsourcing of custodial services. I think that's important as well. The board and the administration have received a lot of messages and emails from staff and community members, genuine, and in many points in those emails, the board and the administration agree. But it is important to be able to put that in the context of the financial situation, because there isn't a person sitting around this dais that is that is considering this decision lightly or doesn't understand the far-reaching implications of it to the people themselves. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Donnelly, and she's just going to give some kind of high-level financial information about projected revenues, projected expenses, and thus projected shortfalls.
Thank you, Dr. Cascone. And I'll start with the caveat, as Dr. C said, you know, if somebody was presenting at a course or giving some legal advice, they'd say, this is not legal advice, seek your board attorney. But the caveat here is, again, they're estimates as of today, and those estimates can change at the drop of a dime. When I wrote this presentation over the weekend, I had one set of numbers, and today that changed, and I changed these numbers at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So that's how quickly, you know, numbers are changing. And to Mrs. Lopresti's point, I chose this picture because it's a cliff. It's not, this wasn't just a beauty, it just showed up in the design choices. But yeah, you get too close to that edge, you're going over, you're in danger. And Holmdel's financial situation is at that cliff. So right now, from a financial standpoint, we're at a crossroads where we look back at the past. We just finished our audit. The auditors will be here on January 28th at the meeting to present the results of the audit. But we're also forward-facing, right? We've started our budget. We've been looking at this since July, and it's not without challenges. But we're also in the present school year at 25-26, and we're looking very cautiously at our spending decisions to avoid any overspending and hopefully achieve a healthy fund balance at the end of this year. All right. Now, you may not be able to see these numbers very clearly, but I will talk to them. So in order to look at the future, we do need to look back a little bit. Historically, the district did have healthy fund balances, and we were able to handle unanticipated expenditures. But in more recent years, costs have escalated, and our facilities are aging and require more maintenance, more repairs, and we've depleted those balances that are our savings accounts to a critically low point, with no opportunity thus far to replenish them. A district's fund balance has several components. There's a restricted fund balance, which are funds that have been set aside for a particular purpose, such as capital reserve, maintenance reserve, unemployment reserves, and things of that sort. We have an assigned fund balance, which is generally monies that are set aside at the end of a school year for funds that are committed, but maybe the project isn't completed or we haven't been invoiced, so those are set aside in our fund balance to be paid for in the subsequent school year, or we set aside funds to close the budget shortfall in the subsequent budget year. And then we have unassigned fund balance. And unassigned fund balance, from a state standpoint, is required to be the greater of 2%.
I can't read it, sorry.
The greater of 2% of general fund expenditures, or $250,000. For us, for the ending audit 24-25, that number should have been closing in on $1.4 million. We closed the audit for 24-25 at $855,000. So we are short of the state minimum at this point. When we develop our budget, like I said, we can, yes?
Share just an additional detail there as to, you said we were below the state requirement. What, we're at 800,000 or so.
Right, 855 at the end of 24.
And it should be?
Between 1.3 and 1.4 million.
Okay. Did you say that?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's, I'll get more to that for 25-26 as well. So when we develop our budget, we can use some fund balance to support the following year's a budget shortfall. In 24-25, we used $850,000, and in 25-26, we used $305,000. But we were taking that money when we were already critically low in our fund balance. But we did that to restrict changes to programs, staffing, and whatnot. We took the chance. Luckily for this year, we did build on our fund balance. So 24-25, like I said, we closed $290,000 higher. In order for us to restore our fund balance to where we need to be for the state requirement, we would have to increase another $600,000 when we close 25-26. And I really think that that is attainable. We've already put a budgeting freeze in earlier this year, so we're scrutinizing every purchase to make sure that it's critical to the curriculum and safety of students. And then we've also started this year, I mean, we're 7 months in, but we've realized some revenue that we didn't anticipate in our budget. So that money can fall to our fund balance. We've had interest over and above what we anticipated. We've had some extra tuition for students that have come into the district, and some facility use that is over what we budgeted. Additionally, we budget our extraordinary aid and our non-public transportation aid at a much lower number than what we tend to realize. And that's because there's no guarantee, right? It's all dependent on how many special needs students we have and what the calculation is for that extraordinary aid. But if this year, if we even realize 75% of last year's, we would have an additional $470,000 of revenue for 25-26. So again, these are all things that are potential and hopeful to help us improve that fund balance.
This fund balance is something that the state requires us to have a certain amount, otherwise they'll penalize us? Or
Yeah,
what?
you could wind up in a state monitoring situation if you don't have sufficient funds. So,
Isn't that what's happening in Lakewood? Yeah.
they're not the only district, Asbury, Lakewood, I mean, there are
Lakewood,
schools.
Lakewood's a little different. They're facing a state takeover, which is the next step beyond the monitor. They've had a monitor in place for probably a decade. I think Montclair is in the range of possibly getting a monitor this year.
Now, I will just add that Mrs. Donnelly has quickly built upon what is already a strong working relationship with our county executive superintendent and county BA. And we had our mid-year budget review meeting with them, and they're being, I don't know what the word is, understanding, and due to, Debbie's reassurances, so they're not elevating it at this point, but because they know that we're working on adding to it. So it's important that we continue to do that.
Exactly. So in the current year, like I said, we aren't without challenges. Even though we have a budget freeze in place, there are a few areas that have been identified as being under budgeted or unanticipated. So health benefits is one. We've been talking about this very transparently for some time. So as of February 1st, we have a plan change, and we'll be going back into the New Jersey State health benefits. The estimated increase at this time over the amount that was budgeted for 25-26 is approximately $260,000. We're waiting for the actual bill from the state to just firm up that number. The out-of-district placements for 25...
Debbie,
Yep.
I'm going to do that thing where I interrupt. I apologize.
That's okay, no, go ahead.
That's, correct me if I'm wrong, that is significantly lower than we had.
Originally anticipated.
We were estimating it was going to be close to $1 million.
Yes, correct.
So that's good news.
Yes, and I'll get to that one a little bit. Out-of-district placements, in 25-26, we had 37 additional new students enrolled at a full-time vocational school in the academies, while we had only 22 graduated. Therefore, we had an increase of 15 students that was not anticipated at the budget time, and this is $100,000 over what we budgeted for vocational tuition. And then we had some other out-of-district placements, unanticipated cost of about $70,000. So these are just an example of some of the challenges that come up during the year that we have to find ways to cover. And we're working on covering these shortfalls because, of course, on the other side, we do budget sometimes over for things because we over-anticipate what something might cost. So, for example, the $260 that was short on health benefits, we over-budgeted for our non-certified pension cost, right? So I know I have a little bit of money there to cover this, but we, keep carving away and trying to cover these shortfalls. So I'm still hopeful at the ability to increase our fund balance despite these shortfalls. Now we get into 26-27, and this is where it gets a little more challenging. So again, Dr. Cascone noted the budget is in very early stages. So these calculations are very early. Everybody is starting to populate the details of the budget needs by building. We're reaching out to vendors, reaching out to our insurance brokers, and getting more thorough estimates, but it takes time, right? It's a little early in the budget process. So last year, our total budgeted revenue was about $72 million. With the 2% allowable increase, we'll add revenue of about 1.3 million from our tax levy, regular tax levy. And then we are allowed a healthcare adjustment estimate. And this was something that today the state opened up the budget program, and I learned just how high we can go with that. So we can go up to 3.4 million, and that is based on the board's decision to elect to go that high, if anything at all. So they can go 0 to 3.4 on the adjustment to tax levy. If they elected to go to the whole 3.4, the tax levy would be about 7.2% for 26-27 school year. At this time, state aid, we are presuming flat, but last year we did lose 154,000, and we could still lose funds this year, but we won't know that until sometime in March. This year we have a new governor, and they will have an extra 2 weeks to prepare her budget and give us only an extra week to prepare our budget based upon our state aid changes.
Deb,
So
would you mind telling the public how much our state aid actually is?
it is 5.2 million
Okay.
was the for this year.
And in comparison to, a school district like Bayonne, let's say, with probably 3 times the size, which is understandable.
Right. So-
But what, I think they're
Right,
about
the-
222 million?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know, I'm just saying, like,
the difference
it's
is-
really upsetting.
Right, we
to-
get educational, special education aid, transportation aid, and security aid. We don't get equalization aid, which is where those districts, right? So instead of the taxpayer, they're getting state aid,
Yep.
right? Because their ability to raise revenue from a tax levy perspective is lower, and they can't provide for an adequate education from tax levy.
Correct.
So the state,
But
right?
yet, regardless, the balance is completely off in terms of, if we have 3,000 students compared to their 10,000, 5 million to 222 million
Right.
is a little bit ridiculous, and that's something that really needs to be fixed. And I think it's important that the public understands that aspect, because I think many people think the latter, or, just have no clue about how this is going down. So it's important for them to speak to their elected officials and say, hey, what are we going to do to make this right for everybody and more fair and equitable around the state?
Agreed. It would make our jobs a lot easier. And then we would hold flat other miscellaneous tuition, interest, and whatnot for the purposes of early stages right now. So that takes us to...
What is that tuition interest rate? What's the tuition?
Tuition, and we have students that come from other districts, and we charge tuition for them not being a resident of Holmdel, then interest on our accounts, right? So how much?
How do they choose to come here then?
It's extenuating circumstances.
Yes. Right. I don't know, Amanda, if you, like, students that are coming in, special ed, students that are coming in, that we charge tuition for, how do they get here?
They're transported by their district. If that, if
So
you
they
mean-
pick our, they just pick our school district, that's it? And
No,
go?
they choose our school district because of
We
the
have-
I think
services
she's-
that we're providing.
Yeah, how do they get to be able to just say, I want to go to Holmdel?
Yeah.
So they don't. So essentially, it would be a child study team decision. It's based on the program and services that we are able to provide. We have an extremely well-respected and probably the best in the state a program for our visually impaired students. And districts are really eager to come to our district because we have an inclusive program with general education peers. So what happens is, again, we have to monitor that because I can't take everyone, and we have our own kids to service. But of course, that would require them to pay tuition to us. They transport their child to our district, and they take care of everything. So if there's paraprofessional support, they also pay for that.
Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it's similar to us having to send a student out of district because we can't meet their needs. So we pay for their transportation and we pay the
Very
receiving
similar.
district tuition. So it's the same thing, we're just receiving in these cases.
Correct.
Okay. So that takes us to an anticipated revenue for 26-27 of 75.8 million. So if we try to roll forward without getting into every single account in details, roll forward our expenditures, again, starting with that same 72 million, our health benefits will require an additional 4.4 million, again, on current calculations, in order to meet the budgeted needs of the health benefit premiums. Transportation each year goes up by CPI, the Consumer Price Index. That is set by the state. Last year's was 3.57. To my knowledge, that has not been distributed yet, so this is being budgeted based on that same CPI. And then an increase in all salaries based on the average from the last year is another 1.3 million that we would need. We have our MCIA lease, so we lease buyback purchase agreement in order to buy equipment and IT needs every year. We do that every other year. We enter a new lease. Last year, or current year, 25-26 budget, one of the leases rolled off, so we had a little bit of a savings. Next year, we have a new lease payment coming in, so that's an additional 147,000. And then our other insurance costs, which are, property, workers' comp, that's an additional increase of about 100,000. Energy cost will be increasing. We put something in at 5%, and we'll talk about our solar expiration issue coming up, which could increase this number. And then out-of-district tuition. Out-of-district tuition, we budget our out-of-district tuition, but much of that cost is offset by our IDEA grant, Individuals with Disabilities Appropriations or Educational Act. I hate talking in acronyms and then not telling people what it means. So we can only budget by state requirements at 75% of the prior year's award. So that 25% of the anticipated out-of-district placement cost has to be covered in our budget. You can't just gamble and hope that it comes out. And then any money excess then would be able to flow to our fund balance or be used for other purposes in the budget. But for purposes of anticipating a shortfall, we have calculated that in there as well. So that brings us to anticipated appropriations of, and I can't even read my own numbers, 76 million. 78, right? See, I can't even read this, it's so small. It's 78 million, sorry.
And board members, I just want to apologize. We were sort of working on this presentation to the 11th hour. We've been doing a lot of pivoting in terms of the kind of information we wanted to share publicly. So moving forward, you can expect to have presentations like this in hard copy, and we're happy to send this to you. I know that Board Member DeSilla sent it around as well, but you can expect us to share this subsequently. So apologies for that, for any inconvenience for that.
But also, this is dynamic and fluid. I mean, these numbers have changed 3 times. And actually, there's been some positive changes, so this is good.
Yeah, well, positive, right.
And again, this
ready to
committee...
make copies, and then this change came, and then I started changing everything, and I said, well, we're going to post it on the website, so, everybody will have it.
And what we said is committee of the whole meeting was supposed to be working in public. So this is literally public meeting of like what we would be doing in subcommittees in a way. So this is,
So that brings our potential shortfall, if you choose to use the whole health benefit adjustment waiver, to 2.9 million roughly. If you don't, we could be as high as 5.3 million. So we're going to be someplace in there, depending on what the board decides to do about the $3.4 million potential health waiver adjustment.
Deb, can I ask you a quick question, just so the public knows, forever is paying attention? If from the health benefits premium increase this year, it was approximately like 34 or 36% increase, correct? Something
it probably was
right around 30 to 30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's just think of those costs that we have to absorb and figure out a way to subsidize that. That's a lot of money.
Once we have the actual bill, we'll be able to firm up that percentage, because it's really based on the census and how the premiums fall out and whatnot. So hopefully by Friday or Monday, I'll have something from the state and be able to firm up that calculation.
Deb, you did say it, and I didn't write it down. So with this, if we obviously know what's the 2% allowable.
Mm-hmm.
What is, if we added the healthcare full adjustment of the almost 3.4 million, that included, plus the 2% allowable, would be an increase in what?
7.2.
7.2. Because you said it, I just didn't write it
that's
down.
excluding debt service, but the debt service has a little bit of savings in it this year, because it keeps going down as the interest goes down. So I would say it's probably going to
Right,
be
again,
all
rough
in about
estimate and-
7%, yeah, which
Okay.
is a little bit higher than last year's, about 6%, right?
Okay, thank you.
But not as bad as we could have been. And just keep in mind, again, go back to that fund balance history story that we were talking about. This shortfall does not take into consideration trying to build up any fund balance or reserves, right? This is just covering our anticipated expenditures for next year.
Right, this is just a moment of time right now, not planning forward, and we'd be in the same exact hole we will be in next year if we just, put on blinders and just say, okay, let's go to the cap and be done with it. I mean,
Deb, can you explain to the public and us, to whoever might not understand it, about the healthcare waiver and how that works and why it is now 31%, right? It's essentially to offset
Right,
these.
so it's, it's to offset the increase in the premiums from the state health benefit plan, or based on the state health benefit plan, which increased a composite rate of 31.9%. So we can raise based on 2% below that and try to recuperate some of the cost of the increased premiums.
So can I just, in my opinion, that the state has created this issue, right? The state, the nation, whatever we want to call it, and they're just allowing school districts now to have taxpayers just shoulder that burden. It's shifting the burden.
That's exactly what it is.
To absorb the costs. So again, it's not a solution, it's throwing money at a problem that's not gonna fix it.
I mean, I'm just going to say
And
it's a
allowing the
national
taxpayer to foot the
issue,
bill.
not a state issue.
100%, but
I mean, I
we're talking
agree,
from the state
it's-
perspective, right?
Yeah.
But I think it is exacerbated here, I think even more so. But
I mean,
that's
there's
just my 2 cents.
I mean, it depends on, right, where your health benefits are, right? If you're in a private plan and you're getting, better rate increases and you have better claims history, you're not realizing 30, 40% increases like those who are.
But we are here.
We are, right.
So,
Quick question. I'm sorry if I missed this before. The fund minimum that the state requires you to have, if you're off of it by X amount, is there a required contribution or no? It's just whatever you can do.
Right. I mean, it's a number, right, that results from the difference between your revenues and expenditures in any given year. But if you're getting critically low, I mean, the county could have stopped us from using that $305,000 last year, and she almost did. And I said, please bear with me. I only just got here, right? I've only been here. Let me work it out and see if I can, build on that fund balance. So she allowed me to go that low because we basically reported in our budget for 25-26, $264,000 as a fund balance. And 250 is the bare minimum, right, before they say we're not approving your budget. So I'm happy that we're now at 855 and we're making steps in progress towards a more healthy number.
And Deb, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I recall years ago when the 2% cap came into effect, the reason, Greg, they would have these fund balances was, say you lose a boiler in one of the schools or a chiller in a school or a roof collapses. Who's going to pay for that? So therefore they would have, and I think, is it every 3 years the fund balance or the maintenance reserve, capital reserve fall off? And
No. No. Your cap reserve that's our money.
Yeah, but the fund balance.
The bank cap would expire, bank cap,
Right.
right? So if you're allowed to do a tax levy at 2% and you chose just to do 1%, the differential of what you could have raised would have gone into bank cap, and you can use that money in future budget years to levy the tax, and we had done that in the past. Last year, in our budget, we used the last piece of bank cap, which was 1.4 million. So that also, right, is part of the shortfall, is we've been using some of this, fund balance and bank cap to support the budget, and now those levers aren't there anymore.
and the bank cap is use or lose in 3 years.
Right, and that's where that expires.
And most districts do not have bank cap. So for years, the old BA, we're financially solvent, doing well. We actually kept contributing to it for either a rainy day or something bad might happen. And then obviously the last 2 years, we've been covering a shortfall with our own internal budget. Now that piggy bank is empty. Now we have to find other ways to find it. And like Allison said, we could kick it to the taxpayers, but that's just kicking a problem down the street. That's just not going to, it's not fixing this.
It's going to happen again next year.
Yeah, it's not,
Deb, have we been downgraded by Moody's, and if so, by how much?
We were last year, and I don't have that number in front of me, but it was downgraded, I think, I want to say it was like A1? I'd have to look at it. It was one level. It wasn't bad, but it was, right? And I'm hoping now that our fund balance is improved, that I'll be able to report this out, and maybe we'll get a little bump back.
If I recall correctly, when we did the referendum, the 2020 referendum, the $40 million referendum, we were AAA bond rated. So it was like, time, it was perfect storm way back when of financials good. Now it's, going the other direction a little bit.
So to Mr. Reddy's point, is now we've got to find ways to save and, fund that shortfall. And one of the potential that we've all been talking about is the RFP that we went out for outsourcing of our custodial staff. So we can talk about that and the costing and an update to the referendum process. So the potential savings for year one is approximately $1 million, and I'll go through how we get there, with the future years being higher in the range of $1.3 million, and the only reason for the differential between year one and years after is that the pension is paid in arrears. So in 26-27, we still have to foot the bill for this group's pension related to the 25-26 salaries. So the expenditure happens next year, right? So even though there's pension savings moving forward, it's not in year one. It'll be in the following years, following 5 years. So this contract would impact 27 employees with varying years of service. I know Mr. Reddy had asked that. So it's 23 custodians and 4 head custodians with years of service ranging 4 years or less. We have 11, 5 to 10, 4, 11 to 19, 6, and 20 or more years, we have 6. And one of those staff members plans to retire at the end of the school year. So going through the calculation of how we come up with that estimate, salaries, including stipends that are given to the employees for different things, whether they're a head custodian, they have a black seal, they all have different stipends at different levels. So that's about $1.8 million. The health benefits for this group, assuming January 1st of 27, a 30% increase in premiums, again, because that is what brokers are saying out there, that's $780,000. The pension at the last reported rate for the state, which was 17.61%, is $305,000. And then you have your regular FICA tax, which is your Social Security Medicaid tax, of $138,000. Workers' comp, that would be avoided by us and passed on to the contracted service because they no longer would be under our employee, is $130,000. Overtime pay with the FICA tax is $161,000. And then other items that we supply, uniforms, shoes, Black Seal license renewals of almost $17,000. So that's a total estimated cost for 26-27 for this group of $3.3 million, where the contracted cost is just over $2 million, a savings of 1.3, again, that 1 year removal of the pension, so something of $1 million in total. The contract that is being considered from the RFP would include 31 staff members, so we would have additional custodial staff, and $100,000 of equipment pool over the life of the 5-year contract. That would allow us to buy equipment, so if we needed a new truck, it would be covered in the cost of this contract. If we did not expend funds, let's say in year one, either on overtime that's included in the contract or this equipment, those funds would keep moving year to year, or if it's related to overtime and salaries, we could take a refund after each contract year if any money is not expended that were included in the RFP proposal. The contracted service would also give our employees first right at positions in the company to staff our needs for the district. And there's also a potential for one staff member to apply for the night supervisor position that is included in the staffing needs of the RFP. The District Evaluation Committee also had the opportunity to interview the manager of the crew for each of the intended vendors that met certain criteria by the evaluation committee. And we also used Advocate, which is a contracting company, to help us with the RFP process. And in the contract is also a fee for them to continue to monitor. They would do quarterly inspections of the site. They would monitor all of the invoices and bills and payroll records that are being charged to us as part of the contract. I spoke with a few people doing reference checks on potential awardee. They were all positive and couldn't speak more highly of using Advocate and what they have done to help ensure that the process and that the contract was successful. And then, I mean, currently, as far as the equipment, we finance much of our equipment through these lease purchases, that MCIA that I spoke about, and that comes with, you know, an interest cost to it. So this would also have some, you know, cost avoidance from interest on some of these heavier, you know, like trucks and Kubatas and things that, you know, we buy for buildings and grounds purposes. And then
I have a question. I didn't understand the pension part. You said first year was 1 million because you paid in arrears. So what would the second year be and third year? I didn't get that, that concept.
So the total savings on a full year of a contract is 1.3 million.
Right.
It's just that in the first year, that pension doesn't get paid until the next year. So the pension relative to the 26, 27 doesn't get
Just
paid
only
until
the
27,
first year,
20.
and then
only-
it'll just keep getting
and then
paid
it would
after
get
that.
the 1.3
Okay.
and
All right.
what,
Okay.
you know,
All right.
estimated cost.
Can you go back a slide real quick?
Not really,
All right, so I just want you to drill down a little bit further on a couple of points, because I think that above and beyond, you know, obviously on the humanistic side, which does not escape any of us, some of the concerns, some of the folks who are kind of circumspect about it, you know, are one, sort of this premise of, you know, there's strangers in our buildings, right? Insofar as either you, we have Mr. Stromslin here, thank you for being in attendance tonight, in terms of speaking to a couple of things. One is, you know, these are professional companies in terms of their process, insofar as you can speak to that, of vetting, criminal background checks, things of that nature. But also, I think something you mentioned the other day when we were talking about it was one of the characteristics of successful relationships is, you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah,
You know what I'm
manager-
talking
the manager.
Well, the manager and also this idea of enfranchisement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to the point of, you know, criminal background checks, Black Seal license, any of those requirements, they are part of the contract, and Advocate will ensure that they are compliant with all of that. So nobody would be in our building without a criminal background check, and our Black Seal requirements would have to be met. So, and again, in talking with any of these references, they've never had a reason to close a building, whether it was for, you know, a special event, because a Black Seal couldn't be met. And, you know, we always have those criminal background checks in hand. But again, in speaking with Advocate and these reference checks, you know, they noted, you know, that culture is very important, and that while, you know, we love our staff, we have to embrace this new staff if the decision is to go in this direction, because they have to be part of the culture, and that really helps to ensure, you know, success, is that they become part of our team, as difficult as the decision could be.
And I know that, you know, it doesn't escape me that these are difficult sentiments to be expressed. They're being expressed and brought forth in the spirit of transparency and objectivity. You know, this discussion, this entire discussion will be clipped, will be shared with the community so they can be privy to these conversations, the information being shared. So I appreciate that. And most importantly, at the bottom of this slide is the administration recommended, I think it was more of a collaborative decision amongst the administration and the board, whereas previously it was going to be at the June 28th meeting, at which, I'm sorry, January 28th meeting, at which, you know, the board was going to prospectively award the contract. The board has agreed to postpone that until February, and there were a couple of reasons for that. You know, part of it is the contemporaneous negotiation process, which is ongoing. You know, we remain hopeful that there can be some agreement there that might have some relevancy to this decision, but also I could say that board leadership has reached out to the town committee now that they've gone through their reorg. And we do have some stones to turn over with them. How fruitful those conversations are in terms of financial assistance remains to be seen. But in the spirit of due diligence, the board and the administration felt that we need to pursue those conversations before any final decisions are made. So I thought that were important to mention here in public.
And really quickly, just to clarify, this is for inside our buildings, right? We employ a separate staff for our grounds, right? So just so that people know that we employ even more people to do a lot of the maintenance work.
Right. The maintenance and the grounds staff are not impacted by this. This is just custodial services.
Can you speak to how many or not? I mean, if you don't know, I'm sure Ken will know the number of grounds and number of maintenance guys we have on top
Grounds,
of that.
we had a head of maintenance and grounds, and then we have 4 grounds.
Ken, do you want to, Mr. Stromson, would you mind coming to the mic?
4 in total with the head, right? So for the new board members, this is Mr. Ken Stromslin. He's the director of plant operations and maintenance, and you've been here for 7, 8 years.
Yes,
Wow,
17.
that's quick.
So we have 3 grounds people, and we have 7 maintenance people. And we're really very unique relative to many other surrounding districts in that our team, our maintenance team in particular, consists of 2 licensed electricians, 2 HVAC technicians. We have masonry expertise, plumbing, carpentry expertise. Consequently, that we seldom have to bring in outside contractors. We do most of this work, significant work, HVAC, electrical work ourselves. And I'm sure Debbie can say from her past experience as well from another district how impactful that can be having to go to contractors almost all the time.
Daily.
I speak to other people in my position in other districts, and they wish that they had this kind of opportunity. So it's worked out very well for us. We've developed over these years now a really excellent crew and very devoted to doing the work that needs to get done here. And that's been impactful too with things like the chiller going down, major unit ventilator issues and HVAC issues, because we do have old HVAC equipment. And, it's because of the team that we have that we're able to keep this going until we can get to a point where we can do something more with those areas.
And our grounds is a hybrid, so we have 3 of our own, staff members, but we also contract out for basically the mowing and trimming.
Right. So for grass cutting, trimming, we have an outside company, and they take care of that because we have huge ground areas and very nice areas that need that kind of attention. We couldn't afford the equipment necessary to do that, and they accomplished that in one day each week. All the lawns, all the grass, all the trimming is done in one day. So it's really impactful and it's great for the
And
district.
Ken, your grounds guys, just if anyone in the public might be listening, they also do the field setups and everything else that's out there from Mr. Kret and his group of guys, and they do, there's a lot of stuff. You drive here on any given afternoon, and, fall and spring, generally speaking, because it's more outdoor sports, and there's all sorts of stuff going on here.
You see them 6 o'clock in the morning out there, and they're picking up the trash and everything from all the events and things that we have going on at night. And then, as you said, preparing all the fields and having everything ready for every sport.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Can I just ask, what would the contracted costs look like after year 1? Do we have any idea of that?
I don't have it in front of me, but they do go up, but it's not astronomical. I can provide those numbers to you. It's a 5-year contract. I have the numbers. I just don't have the detailed numbers off the top of my head. But actually, everybody else that was here, board members before, had been presented that, and I apologize, the new board members would not have seen the backup for that. So I will get that to you tomorrow morning.
I just have a question going to the anticipated shortfall, right, on the general one. not, so when we talk about the potential shortfall, with or without the health benefit adjustment, okay, does this have the SLEO officers in?
We don't pay for that directly, so it's
That's what I'm
not in.
saying, so
right,
like, so that's not put in here, whether that money is coming from, because that was a
Right,
wa, because
right.
that's
So what, we
technically a
didn't pay
wash.
for it this year, so we, the starting point here is what our current year expenses are.
Perfect,
And then,
okay.
pluses to that.
Okay,
Right.
and then, and then also still, just so that the public knows, like, this is part, so in here, like courtesy busing is still in here, which is still
Yes.
up for removal for next year. So that would be a savings of, you know, the
There's
5 to
nothing-
700,000.
There's nothing removed from here.
There's nothing, so
yet.
this is fully
Not even the
everybody.
AP testing that they talked about, that's still in here, right?
Right, 'cause
So
that hasn't even been
As we
approved yet,
decide,
so-
I mean, that, again, that's been decided, but I didn't put it in here because I didn't know that was being necessarily
Well, it hasn't been
spoken
voted
about.
on until next week, so that would be $100,000
Right,
that come
true.
off after,
Right,
after
so
it gets
those
approved.
things,
So, but these are the little things that,
Right.
when we discuss courtesy busing, that'll come off. When we're discussing custodial, whether or not that, but this is the number to start from, our baseline, and as we make
Exactly.
these smaller cuts, and that some of that might be staff, whether it's custodial or just teaching staff, I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's where it comes from, administrative, whatever it is.
correct.
Okay.
So, and to your point, the next steps to ensure that we avoid the cliff, again, that beautiful picture, is that we continue to budget, look at all current year expenditures with that critical lens. And you can ask some of the administrators left, some of the supervisors that I've pushed back on $20 and say, why do you need this? There. I don't know, Art isn't here either. Yeah, but Amanda can speak to it because I get that granular, because every little piece is, to me, I always say, putting that coin in the piggy bank, every little bit helps. While the larger items make the big impact, all of those, little pieces help on the daily. And then the administration will continue to work closely to prepare the 26-27 budget that is fiscally responsible, but utilizes resources that allow us to effectively and efficiently deliver the best programs to our students. And then, and also, I didn't put it here, align with the strategic plan, right? Because we have to continue to align our budget to support the strategic plan. And then identifying the savings, as Mr. Sillo said, that have the least impact on programs and certified instructional staff. And we will continue to be transparent with the community, and, we've said that from the start with this. So I hope that helps clarify to the board and the community, some of the things we've been throwing a lot of numbers and thoughts around, but I thought this put it in a full package, past, present, and future, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Any comments from the board on this? I mean, obviously, we've talked about it a while. This will be talked about again next week as well. It'll continue to talk about it. And like Dr. Cascone said, we had reached out to the Township Committee, waiting to see what dates they can meet, because we will try to talk with them again. And I can tell you, I've sat here for 12 years, and for the last 7 years, or 5 years at least, we've been trying. And any way we can do a shared service with them, we will work as best we can. I mean, but again, we have to plan that we won't get anything from them. That's been sort of the case. Last year, they helped us with the SRO and Class 3 officers. They helped us with the outsourcing, with the courtesy busing, not doing it. So I'm hopeful at least that'll be the minimum, and hopefully we can get more. If not, we will have to take actions upon ourselves to do what we have to do.
I mean, right now, they did publicly say that 250,000 from Vonage, but until that's signed.
Right, we don't know when
can't-
that's actually gonna
right, so,
take place.
So right now, they have at least said that, and they did say that publicly at a township committee meeting, so, but, we have to get that in writing.
Right.
And in an agreement, so.
But I
and
thought the
then-
250,000 was what we were getting, and we would have lost it, and now they're not going to make us. lose it.
Correct, but that's why they're saying that they will continue to give what we're technically getting as of right now with it as an empty building.
They're going to keep us whole, essentially, you might say.
Right.
All right, I guess we can move on to the referendum update. The only thing I was going to ask, Scott, I don't know if could be new business later, old business, but I know every few years we do the capital, the 5-year capital long-term plan. Can we put that, I guess, on the Buildings, Grounds, Budget, Finance Committee, to refresh it? And
Long-range facilities plan?
Yeah, just to see,
Yeah, that's
and
coming up.
Compare it to the whole.
We have another year before we have to, right? Ours didn't expire yet. The long-range facilities plan, what's the year? Do you have it off the top of your head? 28, does it expire?
I think it's in 8/28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we at least, just for the current board, especially new board members, and just have a refresh of it, just so they could see where it sits now? Like, I know everything from solar to fire alarm panels and all these things that have been on it, and literally that because of that, that's what we did the referendum, a decade ago. That became the impetus going, wow, we have all these things to fix or do, and let's go do it. So, and it's just good to know what's coming down the road. Like Deb said, we have to do plan for the future, and, there's some big ticket items on there, like you said. The HVAC systems are getting older. I'm sure chillers and boilers, they're definitely not, there's some young ones that we did during the referendum, but there's many others that we're going to have to deal with.
Before you jump into that, I also heard some talk about some roofs possibly
we're gonna-
needing.
yeah,
Okay,
we're
I
gonna
didn't
talk
hear
about
that
that
word
now.
at all, so
Steve, can you
I've
bring
been
up the
listening
next-
for it. Okay.
Debbie, I noticed you made a note of that. Perhaps that's an item that could be added to the February Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee meeting, the long-range facilities plan?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Even it's just a overview of what that is, what that encompasses, how do we look at it, and then at least they could see it's a real document, and obviously, changes as you go.
Yep. All right. So we've been talking a little bit about the potential of an upcoming referendum. We've been talking about our solar panels, our roofs, our HVAC. So Ken's here, and we wanted to give a little bit of update on some of the things we've been investigating. And then, again, for the new board members especially, what that schedule potentially looks like. So I forgot, I was going to tell you to the next slide, but I forgot I had it. All right. So what we've noted already is that our current solar panel lease expires February of 2027. They're still generating savings for us and generating at 119% of what was anticipated at the time of the lease inception. So we're still gaining savings, but we're not permitted by law to extend the current lease. So that would have been the best thing and the easiest thing, is to remove the panels, fix our roofs, and put those solar panels back on, but it's not allowable. We're at the max, which is a 15-year contract.
And that's basically because of the procurement laws, because since it's an expired lease, we have to go back out for RFP, correct? Even though that's,
I know,
insane, because
contrary
there's no
to-
way that any other vendor is going to be able to compete with the cost of the existing incumbent vendor who already has the equipment. Nevertheless, that's the state law.
But the installation of new solar panels would require that we replace our roofs. The solar panel companies would require a roof warranty, and our roofs are beyond our useful life, and we don't have a warranty. We would incur costs to continue to repair and patch the roofs until they're replaced, and there's an added cost. So every time currently that we have to repair something, we have to remove the existing panels to repair a roof under that, and that comes with a cost, which is embedded in this lease. So until they're fully removed in February 27, we would have to do that. I talked with Ken today, and I said, hey, is there an option as we start to remove these, just not to put them back, but we would be in, infringement of the lease, because they then would not be generating the anticipated revenue. So we found out yesterday that the current savings from the solar generation is approximately $110,000 to $132,000 per year, so on average $121,000. Therefore, when we remove those panels during 26-27 budget year in February, that's a cost of approximately $40,000 additional from the lost. Anthony, you have a question? Okay, you look like you were.
I have a question. The state doesn't let us extend the current lease, and like, how long was the lease?
15 years.
So 50, so they.
That's the max on this type of lease by law, by purchasing laws.
It's a purchasing loss, okay.
And maybe when that law went in place, maybe the life of these solar panels was shorter than what they currently are, right? And the law hasn't caught up with, the max life on some of these, panels, because these panels that are on our roofs are still generating and do still have life to it, but we can't.
And they check on these lease. I guess we have to officially
I'm not gonna-
extend the lease. Yeah, right. Okay, right.
I can't
Yes.
disobey the law. So Ken and I have been working with our architect and doing some investigation and trying to come up with a potential solution to bridge the gap between the removal of the panels next February and the anticipated roof replacement in the summer of '29. Again, that would be pending passing a successful referendum to fund that roof project. So there's a program called the New Jersey Community Solar Program, which can use either ground cover or parking lot canopies to put solar panels. Those panels are installed by the solar company at no cost to the district. That's their district and at their risk. They would pay us to lease our space. So that would be revenue generating. And it would also reduce the electricity cost up to about 20% for the district. It also gives back to the community because 51% of the solar generated goes to the community households based on eligibility. So if you're probably at certain income levels, I don't know all the criteria, but it's more for underserved populations in the community. And it stays within, really our community, within a certain footprint. It's not anybody in the state. But it requires that we go out to bid for installation of, and the lease. So it has to be most advantageous in terms of, the terms of the cost avoidance and revenue generation. Originally, we thought because we were generating revenue that we could just board approve a lease and move forward with it, but unfortunately, we do have to go out to bid for this. So this is all being investigated by the architect. We have a call tomorrow at 10 or 3, I forget, to discuss further with a legal counsel, the architect, and an energy consultant.
Do you know who the energy consultant is?
It's DCO.
Okay, all right.
Greg Burns.
I know who it is.
He's been on the call.
So obviously for the board, I work for Honeywell, so obviously I know energy. This is the world I used to play in and do. 15 years ago when we did this project, or we didn't do this project, when the town did this project, or the town entered to do this project, there wasn't enough of a solar payback for them. So then town essentially bought the solar people to Holmdel, to the district, and the district entered into the agreement. 15 years was the term. It used to be a 10-year term. It changed. There's a lot of people down in Trenton. It changed the legislation. My thought, Ken, was I know a lot has changed in the last 15 years. I'm hoping Spiesel. Very happy to hear DCO is there. So DCO, Honeywell, Johnson Controls, Siemens, Ameresco, there's a whole bunch of energy service companies out there that do it. Very glad they're there because I know in 15 years there's been a lot of changes in the technology, a lot of different things. Back then you weren't really thinking of putting solar at Cross Farm, putting solar in the back of the high school, putting solar in some grass areas you have. So hopefully they can give us some positive things that could, we either have budget or referendum to pay for things. And the third area is energy savings performance contracts that sometimes come with a revenue tail, sometimes they don't. If it comes with solar, it's great because that gives us more money to do other things. And maybe while they're at it, I don't know if that's just a part of the conversation is, hey, can they revisit and look at, is there potential energy savings opportunities within this district that they could dovetail off this? And obviously, I know it's a long-term process to do this. You're talking at the very minimum 9 months to a year usually most times. If it's just solar by itself, it might be faster. But it's definitely something for this board to consider, especially when it doesn't cost us any money, and it's basically using energy savings to pay for it, so, which is sustainable and goes for years.
This particular project, we would have to move very, very quickly.
Right,
on.
that's what I was saying,
We
exactly.
have to get the bid
yeah.
specs going and get that, a legal ad on our
Yeah.
website and move forward because
To meet
what
the
the
6 months.
solar companies, they've reserved materials to do these things with the tax incentives. Remember, so there were tax incentives that solar companies were getting for these projects, and those expire, but they have to be installed by December of '27 for them to take advantage. So to the extent that they already have purchased the equipment for this, they have to install by December '27. So we are still in that window, and that's why the call tomorrow is very important to move forward with getting these bid specs and getting out to bid to try to move forward with this.
Well, this would be a win for sure.
Right,
'cause
and
this
then
would be
once we do
unfounded.
that, right, then the board would have to approve the lease that we would do, right? And the award of that, and that's where the board would prove to move forward with the project. But the steps prior to that, we can continue to keep moving forward and see what the outcome is.
So I just, can I clarify this? So they will install it for free, and they'll pay us money as well for lease.
Yeah, imagine that.
But the electric cost saving to us, it'll be less than it was with our own solar roof?
We
or
don't know that.
Because it says
Up to
20%.
Mhm.
What, but
Of our
what did we
electric
get a lot more before? How much did we get with the solar roof?
I couldn't speak to that.
Like, would it be a kind of a same as the lease and the energy saving? Would it be similar to the savings we had before, or will it be more or less?
Yeah, that hopefully we can figure out tomorrow on the call. Because again, 51% of the generation goes to.
Community.
Community, and then, we share in the remainder,
Right. So presumably it's less than the savings before.
But
maybe.
I'm sorry, it depends upon how many canopies can go up, how much land
And what we're gonna
area
get
they
to-
allow us, because there are restrictions to how much solar you can have in any given geographical area. So we don't know those answers yet. What we've put together is how much property, how many parking lot areas,
Steve,
how
can you
much
pull up those
land
pictures?
area we could offer for the solar
So what we're gonna,
that they could take advantage of. Then the question is, can they use it all? And then with that, how does that compare with what we had on the roofs?
so what we learned in some earlier conversations with one of the solar companies is for every 8,000 square feet of space that you can provide, that could potentially be up to about $50,000 of lease revenue. And, we have some good space, but again, it could be capped at some point. So Ken, this is Indian Hill.
Yes, so this is that new parking area, the loop over at Indian Hill. So it's now an expanded, larger parking area. This is over at Village School. That's, I'm sorry, that's SAT School. That's SAT School. This is Village School, which includes the admin parking on the right and that line of parking in the front of the school. And this is the high school.
This might come up in your referendum, further update, but if we're putting canopies above the parking, we can reform some of these traffic patterns at Village or where the mornings are pretty hefty.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, sorry, Deb.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, and this is an item we can add to the docket of our conversations with the town committee. We did, in our initial meeting with Chris Trubini, the administrator, to understand if they would be willing or intended to go out for additional DOT grants. That would probably be the best avenue for us to bring infrastructure enhancements in the surrounding roadways to Village, would be like we did with the high school, working with the town committee through a DOT grant.
I'm all for saving the revenue generation and that sort of thing, but I also do kind of worry about the aesthetics of all this. I mean, I don't think we can push that aside to think that we want solar panels over all of our parking lots. I mean, they're on pretty major, like, roadways that are visible to everyone at all times.
This is another alternate that Ken's going to talk about. So these are just perspective.
No, I get it.
ideas,
I'd
right?
like to see this visually, though, too, because I think we should be concerned about the aesthetic, because that could totally change the look of our town completely.
Well, I mean, again, it could be done in different parking lots or different areas, but I'll let Ken talk about this piece.
They have improved some of the canopy systems from when they started doing it, and now they do include full drainage systems. Originally, they just allowed the snow to slide off the roof, and they don't do that anymore. It's a full drainage guttered system, taking the water out and away. So it's quite a complex installation, really. But I've seen some of them, and they look pretty good. It's something we have to really look at more thoroughly.
I mean, I think we just talk about green space and, like, preserving open space and green. I just think aesthetically, it's.
But I think that's the difference, like, rather than put it on grass, we're putting it on asphalt. Like, and I think that's so that you are preserving.
No,
green
I
space.
understand that, but just the concept of it changes the look of it. I mean, you see, like, going on McCampbell Road, you're going to see the front of McCampbell Road in front of Village. I don't know. It's
like the
just something I think to think
telephone
about.
poles that have been going on. I know what you're saying, because when we were doing the referendum, I think we had extra money, because the referendum ended like $1.5 million to the better. And I remember there were some conversations, what are we going to do with the money? We ended up doing the commons floors. We did a few different things. One of the conversations was, can we add more parking spots to, I think it was Village, because on a few different occasions when you have the school plays and everything like this. And one of the thoughts was, wow, it's just going to be an entire parking lot. So the aesthetic conversation did come in.
And this is not like on the ground level. These are like elevated structures.
Exactly. This was even less. It was just parking
know.
spots, and now you're going to add parking spots to end the thing. So yeah, I don't disagree with you. It's something to definitely look at. But Ken thinks has other ideas.
So this is Indian Hill, and you probably can't see it too well, but this is that loop parking area. And directly behind it, this area here, going back to the woods and other buildings, this area originally was a swampy, unusable area. But what happened was when we built the new multi-purpose fields above the high school, they originally were going to take all the soils out and we would have to pay for the disposal. Rather than doing that, we had them bring all that soil to this area. So it didn't cost us anything, but we leveled and filled in this whole area. So now it's a full usable field area. It's not being used. It doesn't seem to have any purpose based on our current programs. Not even outside groups are using it. But it measures about 450 feet by about 250 feet. So we're looking at over 112,000 square feet of area that could be used for possibly panels, but also they have another program involving battery storage. And that's a new area. And again, they would pay us for the land use. So we're looking at all these things right now.
Okay. There's a couple of other school districts and architect, and they've been reaching out to other districts and that's why this call tomorrow, that have been embarking on this and are probably a little bit further ahead on this. So we will learn more tomorrow, but these are just some of the optional spaces that would be qualified for the program.
Ken and Deb, knowing that this program you're talking about, is this something that we could at least alert the township to, or let Chris be in part of that meeting or a future meeting? Because you think of Cross Farm and other massive parts of the town that, Bayonet Farms, I think, is owned by us. I mean, the amount of solar you could put back there without even seeing it. I mean, there's parts of Cross Farm you could barely see, or you can't see from the road, just like Indian Hill School. There's parts that, property you never get back to. Even the high school in the back far left, there's a lot of property that we could work on. I'm just thinking from a shared service perspective, if there's more bang for our buck and that could help us, I'm sure they'd be, willing to listen.
Yeah, we could definitely entertain that. But we'll learn more tomorrow and then move forward. So this is a recap of what we talked about in a previous meeting, just the referendum timeline. Really, in order for us to move forward, working with the architect, bond council, we do need to board approve them, and hoping to do that at the March meeting as a professional service, so they can begin to assess the projects, assess the tax impact, with roof and HVAC replacements, the top considerations. Those are the real infrastructure needs or system needs that we need in the more near future. And then we can develop project scope and refine estimates for other things that whether the board, the community, budget, building and grounds subcommittee want to include in a potential referendum. The submission to the DOE for the project approval and updating the long-range facilities plan with any projects would have to be no later than November of 2026. The DOE would review and return to us the approvals around June of 27. The district would notice the Board of Elections July of 2027, and then the referendum public vote could take place September of 27 or November of 27. November 27, because it's a regular election, would be at no charge to the district. Other timeframes would be at a charge to the district for the public vote. And then we would have to embark on the procurement process, bids, award the contract with construction beginning in summer of 29. Or sooner as projects permit. Roofs obviously would be more in the summer. There might be other smaller projects in the referendum that could, potentially happen sooner. And it all depends on the procurement, the bids, and the scope of the work. So that's just an update of where Ken and I have been on the process.
Debbie, can I ask a probing question, which folks may be curious? Obviously, we tabled this before the new year. We were being expedient because we were really being pressed by this idea of the solar leases. And once we sort of became comfortable with the fact that we were not going to get this done anywhere near in time, and we explored all these other options, that gave us some breathing room. For board members or community members who may be listening and thinking, well, gee, even March 26 is, that's a pretty quick turnaround, right? Being transparent, when we with the previous referendum that was done, it was, there was a lot of, community involvement, communication, solicitation of feedback, et cetera. That's not to say that, we can't get that done in advance of March 26, but amidst some of the other challenges the board and the administration are dealing with, it would be tight. When we think about postponing that process, correct me if I'm wrong, there are two negative implications of postponing it to provide additional runway for these aforementioned, features of the process. One is that we continue to have roofs that have outlived their life, if you will, and we would continue to incur the revolving costs of repairs, et cetera, although they would be less costly once the solar panels would be removed because we wouldn't be incurring that cost. But that's safe to say that would be one of the downsides, is that we would have more time incurring these costs, right?
Yes.
And secondarily is that $40,000 loss in revenue from the solar panels might be extended to a subsequent fiscal year, only if we didn't move forward with the community solar.
Correct.
So those are sort of the two implications. I just want to mention that for transparency, for the board's consideration of, when considering those costs. And we could probably present to the board, I don't know if you have those top of mind, Ken, but we can certainly provide those of, what are our annual costs that are associated with roof repairs, right? Because that becomes a figure that we have to consider. And then obviously we have the $40,000 loss annually, just to weigh that from a cost benefit, right?
Ken, do you want to talk about, let's say, the most recent roof repair that we were talking about earlier today? That cost us just for one section of a roof?
So we spent $7,000 to have panels removed from an area over the SATS cafeteria, and then we incurred about the same for a repair of just that one area.
But that repair was at a lower cost than it would have been because Ken does some magic. So it could be higher.
Yes, it's a long story, but yes, it could be higher.
So we could maybe, Ken, that I could provide this information to the board and maybe take a deeper dive in buildings and grounds to understand, like, what are our annual repair costs? And just for that to be considered, as part of the board's deliberations, and we can weigh it collectively to say, no, what, those expenses that we're going to incur, whether it's lost solar revenue or repairs, there's an urgency there. And notwithstanding the fact that the runway is still relatively short to March, we have to run with that. But I think for the sake of that deliberation, I think we have to consider both those sides.
So that kind of being said, first off, as the new chair of Buildings and Grounds and Budget and Finance, I appreciate your trust in me to get the job done. So that being said, I'll be meeting with Deb sometime next week to go over a lot of these different things. So all this type of stuff we'll be able to present to you in a timely fashion and make sure that everything's buttoned up the way it needs to be.
I think at some point I had asked for maintenance records and how much you spent on the roofs. This was months ago. We never got around to it, just to see, because it's a nuisance that we have to fix this and spend money, right?
It's a safety, right? It's a safety thing too, right, Mr. Kim? Because, it doesn't escape our community, that we have leaks, our teachers come in with ceiling tiles that have, and so there is an aesthetic and a safety piece there as well, which has to be weighed. But I just feel that it's important to because this is we're talking about, and these are estimates, but when we talk about roofs and HVAC, we're talking about in the neighborhood of $90 million. So this is a big price tag, and when you contextualize that with all we've been talking about tonight, I just think that we need to ensure that we're doing all that due diligence so we can weigh the decision carefully. And if the decision is, hey, we got to go, well, then you know what? We're going to put together as inclusive a process as we can in the time we have up until March, so that our community feels that they've had a seat at the table, and that the board, of course, has had an opportunity to ask all the questions that they need to ask. And that if there are any other little smaller projects, right, because, HVAC and roofs are important, but they're not a lot of sizzle in that. And we know that sizzle oftentimes sells referendums at the end of the day. And if we're talking about $90 million, do we have a couple other little pet projects, that only increase the amount by, say, only $8 to $10 million, but which, if we're going out, I just think that we want to give ourselves the time to, whether it's community feedback or board feedback, to ensure that if we want to go out for some additional little smaller items, that we can do that. And we need time to do that, so.
I think that a way to get in community involvement is maybe like we throw like we put together our list and present it out there with the list, which actually one day we actually did discuss, you know, things from an addition to SATs to be able to move 6th grade over, like things like that. We kind of had a big, long list.
We have the list.
Right, so, but I think if we present it, and then maybe we just, you know, because of the time frame, if it looks like it's something that the board feels the urgency to do, we do like a town hall.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
let people come and just speak their mind, you know?
100%.
Like, and then that's a, you know, it's a quicker process, but at least it's giving feedback,
100%.
you know,
I mean,
so.
You know, this piece in March, right? I mean, in order for us to come up with good estimates, the architect has to get an engineer and people out. They have to, you know, verify the roofs and everything that has to happen to come up with a good estimate, you know, whether flashing is needed or anything else. And the HVAC has to be evaluated by an engineer in order to figure out, you know, what needs to happen. They can't move forward with that without an agreement. So
Yeah, so with that
right,
said.
so it's like, you
so
know,
with that
it's
said,
a
Debbie.
catch-22, right?
So with that said, but that is, you know, that doesn't, when the process starts, right, doesn't necessarily absolutely determine the time horizon in terms of when it's done.
Right, this is just something that we
Yeah.
talked about as a potential timeline, right? Pushing out, right? We're talking 3 years from now, or 3.5 years, before we fix those roofs.
Yeah.
Right? But we need to get started because of the, you know, all the processes that take place. And without that professional services approval, the architect can't move forward with what has to happen.
But
And
the
again,
architect also, sorry, Deb, the architect can't move, you know, whatever we commission the architects to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's the project, right? In other words, once they have that, they're quoting us on that scope of work, so at that point it's baked, right? We're not adding things after we've presented them with the original scope of work. Is that fair to say?
I mean, I think you can take things away, but not
It can always
add.
be a change
You can take
order,
away, but you
right?
can't add, correct?
Once like the referendum, when something is approved and out for bid.
So let me clarify.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Let me clarify. So, right, so right now, we're saying, okay, it's going to be HVAC and it's going to be roofs. And those are the most pressing. But we do have a list, right, in the town hall, et cetera. So, but what we give them is the project. We can't go back, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later and say, hey, we forgot to add this item, like that.
I can confirm that tomorrow.
Because I think if there's the possibility of doing that, then I think that colors the decision-making process, because we can say, listen, we know we need to do roofs and HVAC, so let's move forward with commissioning them on that. And if there are other items we want to add, then we can, not saying we're delaying interminably, but if we want that process to catch up, whereby we have a couple other smaller items to add, we could do that, and they could add that to the scope of work.
I'll confirm that, because I guess if that can't happen, then maybe that gets moved to April.
Right, that's
To
right,
give us
right.
A little more,
Right.
time and whatnot.
I'm
But-
thinking you can phase it type things, but my question would be this for March. Okay, and obviously for Anthony, maybe for your meeting, absolutely would want, especially for the new board members, okay, who's our architect? Who's Spiesel? Who's that guy? Have them come in, at the very minimum, come to the meeting, introduce themselves, just to, because it's got to start there, because, this is a lot of things that are going to have to happen pretty quickly. What's our number for their professional services? 30, 40 grand? What are we looking at?
For this?
Yeah. Really,
It
they
would- I mean,
didn't give a proposal yet, or?
When they gave us the proposal, the number was a little bit different. I think it was based on like 75 million, and I think it was 59,000. But again,
Okay.
that gets roped into.
Right, correct, yeah, I'm just wondering what,
remember-
I figured it'd be in that ballpark, just because that makes sense for what they do
Yeah.
and stuff.
And then
Okay.
there's other fees, but it was a complicated contract.
Yeah, and Spiesel, just for everyone's purposes, they did our referendum. We had fired SSP, who was our original contractor, God help us, and it worked out. And they did a fabulous job on the, Evan Greyhawk did a great job on the referendum. So they know our districts really well. They worked here for, was that 4 years, took that project? So, this is very good. They're very familiar what we have and what was still needed. So at least this isn't a stranger coming into our district.
So Spiesel, do we renew that contract with them every year? Or is it?
As an architect of record, yes, we've
So
renewed
let's
that.
just say, for whatever reason, we go, they're our counsel for the referendum. Are we beholden to them to renew them because we're kind of in process? Or could we bifurcate this at some point for whatever reason?
I think
Yeah.
you could have an architect completing a project based
Okay.
on this separate agreement, and you could change your architect of record, perhaps.
Because if it just say another firm bids and they are equally as good, but they are way under market and we have to take the savings, it's just that if that opportunity exists.
So as a professional service, you can only hire them for 1 year. The only caution I will give you, because this happened to another client several years ago, was there was some issue with transferring from one architect to another, and there was a dispute about who owned the actual plans or whatnot, and that became a potential litigation issue. So I'll give you that level of I don't know if that was unique to that situation, but
That's
there's...
bad lawyering, you know that, Kyle. You would have put that in there.
Well, we did 3 bids for the referendum. We did a parking lot bid, we did a paving bid, and we did the fields bid. And they were all a mess. And here we are to start with a $40 million referendum, like, oh my God, we're dead on this project. And paving is pretty easy. How much square foot you have, how much material, do the math. And we missed that bid terribly. Then we missed the fields bid, and 3 bids in a row. And this board, we're like, oh my God, we're going to fire the architect. We fired the architect, and we split the project, or we actually went from 27 or 29 projects to like 5. And I was like, oh, this is going to go south in a second. And it didn't. And we literally let SSP finish those 3 projects that they did. And I don't want to say screwed up. It worked out okay. But I mean, we literally fired the architect middle of a $40 million referendum, right? And,
And
inning 2 of the
but
game.
lost projects in some of the stuff that was originally put out there didn't get to be done because of the whole, how it all went down.
But Diesel was here for the road widening and all that, right? Because they're the architect of record for the township, or no?
That's,
So we leaned on up until somewhat recently, we did not have an engineer of record, and so we brought on Colliers, and Colliers was who gave us sidecar support on the road project.
Right, so the last item on old business is Addie's house. So we've been talking about Addie's house. It was in some earlier referendum discussions, and Addie's house is the older white house in front of, right, everybody familiar? So the town administrator has approached us with the potential to purchase that property and the home. It's 3 acres, and it's sufficient space for them to build a recreation center for the town on that space. They would only have parking spaces that would be enough for the daytime programs, which would just be, maybe people during the day coming to a class or using the space. But for anything that would be evening, weekend, they would hope to use one of our adjacent lots that are existing adjacent to the property, because the 3 acres wouldn't be enough for the building and a large enough parking lot, let's say if they had a basketball court and had a basketball game. So that is something at this point, we just need to kind of get a feel from the board as to whether or not we want to entertain that with the town. And then I would report back to them, and the process would, then they would get somebody to assess the property. But they're not going to move forward to assess it if we don't think that's something we want to move forward with.
So Lupkert House, so back to the 2020 referendum, the Lupkert House was one of the projects that we did. The district, Lupkert House is an old school Holmdel family that was here forever and ever and ever. The theater, which is right next to it, which we do not own, it's owned by the township, right? Correct, the theater? Is that right?
We own the property, but not the theater.
Right, the lease, yeah.
We lease it for $1 or
Right.
something.
Yeah, but the Lupkert House, we purchased it during that time. I think it was like $675,000, whatever it was, fair market value. And we've never done anything with it except, I guess, is it 3 years ago, 2 years ago, we painted it? We painted it because we obviously, as a board, that's the first thing you see when you drive past the high school, so we wanted to make it at least look good. There's nothing into it. I know over the last couple of years, there was conversations of putting the Board of Ed office in there, having the Monmouth County Historical Society come in there and take it over. That was sort of, like a lot of different thoughts. I know if we were going to put the Board of Ed office in there, we were going to have to put an elevator or something in there, which was going to be the tune of like $1 million for the total referendum, just numbers that made no sense. So we spent $20,000, $30,000, $15,000 to paint it. And that's where we stay today. And I think all your COVID materials, those little desk guards that was in Mr. McCarthy's class and everywhere else, they're all stored in that building, I think. I'm not sure what else is in that building, but,
Boxes of,
yeah. If board members want to do a tour, I know we did a tour, I think, Aunt Alice, when you guys first started, I think, it's interesting. It's a very old house, I think from the early 1900s.
No, it's colonial,
1800s?
colonial era.
Thank you. Yeah. It's very old and interesting. So I don't know if board members, I know for one, I'd be more than happy to entertain that because for years we were kicking it down the road going, what are we going to do with this building? The reason we bought it was so that a Khan Academy, a 7-Eleven, a Chipotle couldn't go, put a building right in the middle of our campus, especially if you wanted to change the high school entrances and everything else. So it was a good decision. we made
I'd be
years.
willing to entertain it, but I also think that there could be a missed opportunity, obviously, if we are doing a referendum, to be able to put that to use for our district, maybe making it administrative offices and utilizing the money to do that, but now freeing up space in Village to potentially create more classrooms for pre-K, which are a revenue generator. So depending on how much they want to give us with regards to purchasing the property and kind of, we'd have to weigh those options, I think.
I think that's a good option. I know we talked, brainstorming, talked about doing like the special ed and those students and having some sort of like center there to hang out or like a cafe and put them to work and that kind of thing, use some of those life skills. I mean, kind of the idea of having a big building there, maybe. I guess I'm stuck on aesthetics tonight. I don't know what it is. And the idea of traffic too. Everyone complains about traffic, which was alleviated a lot with the construction project, and that was hugely helpful. But now we're going to be adding more traffic.
Like everything we talk about, everything is interconnected and intertwined in ways that are not obvious. We've talked about our schools are used constantly, day and night, and it might free up some space for the town to do some other things, right? I mean, we'll talk about that at some point, but I really do think that this is a great opportunity. They can name it after the family. I think there's a lot of things to keep the historical piece of it and also create a recreation center, because board member Manning knows that we're in the basketball gym, the gyms until 9 o'clock at night because there's not enough space. So it's a nice way to free up space for the community to use because we are basketball crazy here.
Ray, you were on the town rec advisory committee last year. Because I know when I was on it like 8 years ago, we went to Woodbridge and looked at their recreation center, and obviously we can't do what Woodbridge has. They have a multi-story building with a track and everything else. Phenomenal. Not happening here. It's a way bigger district. But have they started looking at if they're talking recreation center, which I'm happy to see, because that's the one biggest, missing thing of this town, and it's been for years, did they talk about maybe at the pool club or other areas, or is this the only place they've talked about it?
It didn't come up in that meeting, but I know that the town has been scouting sites to try to find to do this, right? Because there's money for them to purchase land. Right. So
apparently we have a lot of land behind Indian Hill that's now flat and ready to go.
Hey, the community center back there works too.
Years ago, the town, I think there was going to be a land swap between the town and the county. I don't think it ever happened, but I remember
it didn't for right across the street.
Yes, and the thought about that was to put a rec center or something, but I don't know. Obviously I'm not on the township committee. I'm curious if that was, if those conversations would be interesting if they're looking at exploring other areas. Because what you're saying, become a bottleneck.
Yeah, I
in a way.
personally think, how do you even fit a rec center in that space? It seems like you're just trying to build something to use up space and make money, right? Or
that's their plan, right? They'll have a plan. And did you say they include parking spots during the day?
They would have just a few parking spots, close to the building for daytime, whether they had some senior programs there, or, other uses for the recreation programs. But it would mostly be, right, evenings and weekends for most use, right? Because people aren't there to use it on a regular
I think it's a
work day.
great idea. I think it's a great opportunity to make some money too. And the center can be used by the kids, by everybody in the evening.
Right, everybody would, but they have, I guess, funds in their open space fund that they would use for this to, it wouldn't be necessarily a cost to the town.
Remember, we said, even if you want to build all of those things, if you want to, we can't, at least from my reading, we have to raise the building and then build something new, and that costs a lot of money. Right. Even so, I think it's a good saving. And, good.
And again, they would have to assess it and determine if it's feasible for them. but they won't move forward with that process unless it's something that we would at least entertain a proposal.
Debbie, what I'm going to recommend is we commissioned Spiesel, gosh, it's got to be 3 to 4 years ago.
Share the
Yeah, we commissioned them to do feasibility study on Addie's house for 3 different options. One was administrative offices, one was a 18 to 21 residential, educational, a work-based learning house, which is pretty common practice, and the other was some form of like a gallery and a workshop space or something of that nature. But those numbers are obviously out of date now, but I think it could be edifying for the B&G committee and for the full board, to kind of walk through those at the upcoming committee meeting in February, but also for the board to see that. The numbers are out of date, but it gives you a sense of, even 4 years ago, what the costs of those various options are. And even I think the cost to raise the building was in the neighborhood of $100,000 or something of that nature.
But then it had gone up by,
Yeah.
so everything goes up.
But I think it would be interesting and, helpful to the conversation for the board members to see that proposal, if you can dig that up. And
Yep, we'll
yeah.
find it. We have it.
So moving along, a little longer meeting, but we sort of knew it was going to be that way. The next is your agenda. If you have any questions for Dr. Cascone, I know on the agenda, if you looked at it, handful of retirements, the program of studies that we looked at tonight is on there. I totally forgot the Title I to Title IV monies were on there that we get each year, interim principal, bunch of Schedule B appointments. So if anyone has anything they want to ask questions on, I do have one on number 21, I'm sorry. The CPR, I know we do that annually. Do you know how many of our people get CPR certified? Is it per school? Is it, anyone who just wants to, or?
So this is, oops, sorry. I leave it on when I should, when I turn off when I should.
They come and train our people?
So this is basically like turnkey training for our staff to then become certified CPR trainers to train all staff members that have that requirement, in addition to any other ones that want it. So as opposed to paying for our folks to go out, or it enables us to train in-house. And in terms of the number, Art, just in your oversight of health and PE, do you have any color on that?
I'm not sure of the exact number, but I think it's, I think he was like saying it was 13. There's not a lot of, there's a cap on the number of people that can get the training. So Casal didn't tell me the exact number yet, though.
Maybe we can get that, and I appreciate it, Art.
And
Are all of our coaches, right, like that's, like, I know in my district, right, everyone has to be, right? So, yeah.
And with that is like AEDs, so we have AEDs throughout the school and throughout the campus. Is that dovetailed in the same?
Yes.
Same or
Yep.
different?
It's part of the same training.
Nice. Step
Yep.
away from the patient and all that fun
Mhm.
stuff. Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Cascone?
And again, understanding for all board members, but particularly our new board members, first action agenda, that's the great thing about this committee of the whole is we have a week. So as you review it, if you have any questions whatsoever, we're here to answer them. It's important that you have all the information you need to vote confidently. So we're happy to answer any questions you have.
I see none. Central Office Department updates. So the last document that we haven't looked at is your document of C&I and the different departments that if you want to hit some of the highlights, I guess.
Yeah, for the sake of brevity,
Yeah.
we've been here for a while. I want to give the new board members a little bit of context for how this came about. So when we pivoted away from the subcommittees and went to committee of the whole, feedback from the board was like, we're missing out on a lot of these informational updates that would have kind of percolated up through the subcommittees and then been presented in the committee reports at the regular action meeting. So we started bringing forth these updates, and they're fantastic, because I think when you read through them, I know that I'm amazed on a monthly basis just on all the things that are happening district-wide. And then what we do is we publish these online so people can see those. So, we're not going to read through them, but I do encourage board members to look through them. Talk about referendums and budget and RFPs can be kind of dry, but this is the good stuff. I mean, this is the things we do on a daily basis. So I'm not going to ask our team to present them in depth, but certainly I encourage you to take a look at them, and we do share them with the community. Once we get into subcommittees, this kind of document would not be necessary. So.
And on committees, I think Scott was, finalizing most of the committee, because I think, what would that?
Yeah, so I have all the availability or lack thereof, so I'm going to sit down with Giovanna tomorrow and sort of put together the jigsaw puzzle now of the days, and once we, and then I'll put that draft out to the board, and once we have a confirmation, then we'll start sending out the calendar invites, for the months when we're meeting in subcommittees, not committee of the whole. This way, you can do some advanced planning with what I know are very busy calendars, so. And thank you for responding, and appreciate it.
I just want to shout out to the guidance department that, and it's mentioned in here specifically, that they did like a college panel. So with some of our freshman kids came back and talked about their experience, and overwhelmingly, and I'm only saying it because not only what did it just happen, but we also talked about the program of studies for the high school. They are so well prepared. Like they all, overwhelmingly, the freshmen that were back were, listen, my nephew was one of the kids, and he's at Notre Dame, and he's like, this is easy. Like, Notre Dame is easy for him right now. That's how well prepared our kids are. Listen, he's got the green chrome whatever now because he made the club team. So, he's good.
I know Dr. Harris isn't here, but I don't know any of student who basically, or the ones that decided to go to college, they all have done well, real well. No one's come home, and so they are prepared.
Yeah, and just, but it's it's the preparedness of the district guidance, putting that together for everyone to hear. It was just a nice day, so.
Before we get to the public, does any board members have any final comments, anything? We promise it won't be that late every month. So item P, question or comments from the public.
Poor Mike's been waiting. It's you.
Mr. Mike Flaherty, step to the mic. If you give us your name and address, please, sir. And you have 3 minutes, and we're going to hold you to it.
I get it. Michael Flaherty.
Got a cowl.
10 Ardmore Place. I'm here tonight in the capacity as president of HYAA. I've served in that role since 2022 when fellow board members and I were elected. That includes Danielle Longier, Joe Crowley, and Kim Tasillo. We thought it was a good idea for me to speak tonight just to give a snapshot of the organization, given the close coordination that we have with the school district, given that the vast majority of our registrants are school district children, and given that we are major users of your facilities. With all that in mind of tonight's presentation, we're fully aware of bunch of concerns and issues. We are incredibly appreciative and thankful of the discounted rate that the district charges HYAA. And honestly, this is something that I should probably do every year in terms of just giving just a basic presentation on kind of where we are as an organization and just our, the costs and the revenues and just some basic data points about HYAA. So that was my goal tonight. So I'll be brief and just give you a couple of numbers. First is we have 2,000 registrants, right, which we're very, we're happy about that. We've stayed above 2,000 for the last few years. And there's a lot of other sports, there's a lot of activities, there's a lot of club sports on offer, and we've stayed above that number, and we hope to continue to do that. We offer 11 sports. So we've added 2 sports in the last 2 years. We have badminton that was added in the fall. We have a running program that was added the year before. In prior years, we added volleyball. We added wrestling. So we're growing and getting bigger. One of the things that we as a board have really encouraged in recognition of our relationship and recognition of how we operate is to each sport spend your budget, spend it on your teams. And in addition, if you have leftover money to support your high school team, right? We've really tried to encourage a close connection between our HYA sports and the corresponding high school teams. And so one of the things that I'm happy to distribute we've just tallied what we've spent, what HYA has spent on school district, high school sports, and also some township spending with baseball. So since 2018, we've spent $152,000 on various donations to sports. I'll give you a few examples, and the vast majority of that has happened since 2022. So $12,000 for shooting machines that rec basketball donated to the high school, $8,000 donated to the volleyball the system at the high school, $3,000 donation to the Holmdel Field Hockey Association. We also have the Phillips scoreboard at the township level, $22,000. So I just wanted to, in the interest of transparency and our ongoing relationship, to give you some of those numbers. To if you have any time, have any questions for me or the organization, or we also Joe Crowley is our treasurer. We just wanted to kind of be a to have an open dialogue, to express our appreciation and our excitement of our continued work together.
Thank you, Mike. I think that's good. I mean, I coached for well over a decade. Joe Crowley his kids were finishing when I started coaching. So Joe, it's amazing he's still on the board. He's been on the board probably for 20 years or 15 years easy now, and I know he's retired, so that's awesome. I know you guys paid for the Indian Hill School Board years ago. I know, all the things within the town.
It's every scoreboard, right?
It's every like
scoreboard.
The brand new one at the turf field was
Right,
that was
which is good.
14,000.
And you are right. I mean, I remember years ago when Chris Premonte was the treasurer, we went from 10,000 to 12,500. He had about had a brain aneurysm, and it was $2,500. We're way past that now, unfortunately, and there's been a lot of conversations with other people and things like this. And the first time I ever heard it for years is we should be closing the doors to the township recreation. And me being a baseball, soccer, whatever basketball guy, we'd never had that conversation in all these years. But that conversation is now happening. So my only request, and probably on behalf of the board, is please go back to the town. All that Bellworks money and everything else, we need that help. And helping you will help us.
Yep.
But that's huge because, I mean, $12,500 is the best deal in probably history. But obviously it's all Holmdel kids, right? It's all Holmdel kids in 4 different schools. I'm sure the gyms are all empty now, but at one point tonight there were games in every school, new and old gym, things like this, and our custodians taking care of that stuff, making sure the courts are ready and lit and everything else. So, I mean, it's...
Mike is ready to sit with, hopefully, with leadership, Dr. Cascone, Township Committee, like he wants to be involved in trying to, come up with a solution with the township, because they're part of the...
For sure.
Because I think of, closing the doors, I was like, we can't, can't, in my brain. It's worst case scenario forever. I mean, it would be bad, obviously. We'd have a lot more people in the seats. And
second worst case scenario is the $500,000 that it actually, by mathematical equation, right? Yeah. Because that's just not sustainable either for the program.
And in your 11 sports, I was just curious, football's not in that, and it's travel soccer? Are they they're outside your domain?
Rec soccer.
Rec soccer, but not travel. They're
Correct.
Still sort of their own little entity?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm just curious how things have changed there. Any other questions or comments for Mike? I see none. Thank you very much. It's good. Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Any other comments? If not, anything else? We are done for this evening.
Can I just
Yes.
30
Absolutely.
seconds?
Hey.
It's just something new. Just going forward, our legal notices will be posted on our website, no longer required to be in a printed newspaper. So there's a button on the homepage that says legal notices, takes you to a legal page, and that's where all of our legal notices will appear moving forward.
That saves us money? Because we don't print it in the paper?
Yes, it will save us money. We are required for the first year, from January to December of '26, to notify the paper twice a month as to where that link is, but it only costs us about $20, where an ad can cost hundreds. So, thank you.
Thank you all. Can I get a motion to
Move.
adjourn? Second?
Move second.
All right, we're done. Thank you very much. Have a nice night.